Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Multiplayer, the podcast by gamers for gamers. I am your host, Zach Matscandis, alongside the lover boy himself, the lover boy forever, Javier Ortiz.
That's right, 100, baby.
Yo, episode 100 coming at you right now. That's right. We made it. We made it to episode 100, dude.
Finally, it's finally happened. Where's my prize? Where's my cash check?
You know, it's in the mail, I think. Yeah, that's right, everybody. You know, it's been a minute. You know, obviously, like, multiplayer, it's kind of a hobby of ours. We kind of start and stop every once in a while. You know, so life is life, and we got to do things. So, you know, if you haven't heard, we're kind of stopping down after episode 100 for a little while. Feels like a great milestone to kind of, like, you know, kind of tip our cap and be like, all right, cool, we'll see you next time.
Yeah,
kind of dealio. But man, I'm excited. I'm so excited we finally got here. You know, when we started up multiplayer in 2017,
I think so.
You know, it was one of those things where it's just like, yo, I work on so many like projects where it's just like, you know, it's like you know, some feature film or something I'm working on. I'm like, this isn't fun. Like, you know, I need to get my creative juices flowing in a different thing. And
yeah,
obviously, I love video games. You love video games, and it's like, yo, let's have a little podcast where we talk about video games and stick with it, because you know, a lot of people they'll do like something for like a week or two and then they just dip out.
Sure.
But man, we made it to 100 episodes. That's over 100 hours of beautiful content, and that's also not counting our bonus episodes we used to do for Patreon, which there was like 25 of, I think. So, you know, we have probably, if I had to just guess, probably about 150 hours worth of content.
Probably more.
Yeah,
I'd say closer to 200.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, remember, everybody, that those old episodes are all over the place in your ears and in your face. You can check them out over at youtube.com/multiplayer. All 125-ish episodes of us talking about a bunch of nonsense. And it's also over on podcast services everywhere. Pick a podcast service. We don't care what it is. Go find us over there. You know, Spotify and Google Play or Google Podcasts, or, you know, they changed those names, and I don't know what's going on anymore. Same thing with like Apple Podcasts, which is a better name than iTunes.
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, we're there. And then, of course, at Go Multiplayer over at Instagram, you can kind of go and, you know, we'll keep that live. You know, we'll keep like posting things to that for funsies from time to time. So
sure,
you know, go and follow us over there for good times. And, you know, eventually we'll come back and make some more episodes. So that'll be a good place to, you know, kind of get the news that we're back, baby. So, you know, stay tuned for all of that. But Hav, we have a good show today.
Oh boy.
You know, typically we like to do a combination of like news and, you know, old news and, you know, a bunch of nonsense, you know, kind of in between, and like a layered,
for sure,
like a PBJ and like, I don't know, something else in there, like some banana slices or I don't know, what's something crazy. Beef jerky.
Ketchup.
Peanut butter jelly ketchup sandwich.
Ugh,
disgusting. That'd be just awful.
Yeah, top it off with some mustard if you're really feeling saucy.
But yeah, we have a good show. You know, I've been kind of thinking about this episode for a while and what we should do with it, and I was like, you know, we've never done like a top 100 or like top anything list, really. You know, we talk about some of our favorite games on the show, obviously, but, you know, I think it's time to let the listeners and viewers know what our top 100 games of all time.
The definitive only list that matters.
Yeah, 100%. If you see a top 100 list anywhere else on the internet, it's wrong. Take your laptop, throw it in the trash.
It's not even worth saving anymore. Get a new computer, get a new Gmail account for your Google, and just don't ever look at that list ever again.
Yeah. So, you know, before we start this, and we'll get into the rules in a second, but I definitely want to caveat with a big old asterisk that this is our list.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like, and I'm hoping with these rules we're about to lay out, it's gonna like make things a little crazy. So we might end up with stuff in like the top 10 that probably shouldn't be there.
Yeah, it's you went over the rules with me before we started, and I'm still a little confused about them, but we'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah, we like to do things on the fly here over at Multiplayer. So but I like to keep us on our toes, and if we can like make things silly with this list, I think that just makes for a more interesting episode. But
number 1 is Sonic Spinball.
That and Mean Bean Machine are the only 2 good Sonic games, in my opinion.
That's fair. That's fair. The Mean Bean Machine is stupid, but yeah, I guess it's fine.
Mean Bean Machine, that game's great. If not incredibly hard towards the end of that game. Holy cow. Does that game get difficult? But yeah, so at the end of the day, these are our games, and let me tell you right off the bat, so you're not surprised, listeners, viewers, my list is crazy. I have things like way higher on the list than maybe they shouldn't be, and way lower on the list than maybe they shouldn't be. And it's because like I listed off like a good 60, 70 games, like off the top of my head. I'm like, I love this game, and this game, and this game. And then I just stared at that list, and I just started dropping them like into places. Like, I'm just going with my gut. This feels right to me.
Yeah.
This feels right to me. And
these lists would change on any given day,
Yeah. I also, I try not to overthink it. And this is also like, personal games that I've played. And I tried not to let, too much I guess impact on gaming affect my judgment. This is like my own personal feelings of these games. Like there's certain games just off something that's not on my list, but I could see it being on somebody else's list, is something like Castle Wolfenstein, where it's like
sure,
like Wolfenstein's basically like the first first-person shooter ever made. So it's something where I could see that being on somebody's list because of the impact it made on first-person shooters forever. But I tried not to look at my list that way. And maybe you did yours differently, and that's totally fine. I think that makes for an interesting mixture of a list here. But that's this is my personal I loved these games.
Yeah.
And I tried not to just shove something in there just because of the impact of what it did to
sure
yeah.
No, my list is what I had the most fun growing up playing, and this is why I love these games, and that's really all my list is. I didn't really look at it from, I tried not to take educational standpoints. Yeah, some of them might coincide with wow, it had such a big impact on the gaming industry, but most of this list is, man, I loved this game when I was a kid, or I love playing this game to this day. I just love it, or I have really fond memories. I haven't played it in 20 years, but man, I remember it being really good. And it might not be good, Spoiler alert, there's a good amount of Super Nintendo games on my list because my favorite console.
Odds are there's probably not too many major RPGs on our list because we're not the biggest RPG guys. Something I have a few on mine, but something like Chrono Cross. I know people love Chrono Cross, and I've yet to play Chrono Cross, so it's not on my list.
Yeah, not too many JRPGs on my list. A couple of RPGs, but not JRPGs.
I guess I should say JRPGs.
Yeah.
And action RPGs and stuff. I really do not like them. the later Final Fantasies, I just cannot get into those games.
I still have never played a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, so probably not too many Final Fantasies on our list.
Nope.
But all right, with all those caveats, let me give you the rundown again of the rules so that the listeners out there kind of know what's up. So first off, we're gonna go back and forth in order. Let's say you would be number 100, and then I'd be number 99, and then you'd be number 98, and then I'd be number 97, and so on and so forth. The way we decide who's going to start, because ultimately whoever starts is basically going to end with number 1.
Right.
So, to have that position, we're going to do a coin toss. A coin toss. We're going to do a coin toss. I have did I say toin again?
Yes, you did.
A coin toss.
There it is.
Holy cow. 100 episodes and I still can't host.
just having a little stroke over there. It's okay.
Yeah. So I have a coin toss app on my phone.
Nice.
If you're on the video side, I basically just push this little button and
Heads
it just flips from heads to tails. So, since I have the app, I'll let you do the honors of calling it.
Okay.
So that's basically rule number 1. The next rule is if there's any, basically we can't have the same games on the list. So like, for instance, if we both picked NBA Jam, for instance, to be on this top 100 list, and if I put it at number 87, you can't just like bring it up later and be like, NBA Jam should be number 12. I'm like, first off, that's a little high on the list.
Way too
high. And also it's already on the list. So once it's there, it's like it's there, no backsies, can't change it. It's on the list there forever.
That's gonna bother me. Because it's well, because it's kind of like, you may have put it at a different spot on your list, but screw you, this is where it's gonna go.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's not fair.
Yeah, but if you get real mad, you could just veto me later on.
Oh yeah, for sure.
With another thing. So, which is like the next rule. If there's something you really think should not be on this list, like if I was just like Battletoads is number 4, and even though I feel like that's something you would say and I would not say, but
no, I would not put it that high. Are you kidding me? Battletoads is deserving of a top 100 spot for sure, but not number 4. Maybe like 94.
So if I was like, Sonic Spinball should be number, 62, and you're just like, oh man, that game is awful, should not be on the top 100 list, I veto that game. You can basically kick it off the list.
For sure. And
you need to replace it with something. So, but if you do that, that basically means like I get the next spot. So, if if you're going in order and you're going to be like number 1, you could totally lose out that number 1 spot by vetoing something. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. I got you.
All right. And and that's it.
Let's get it going.
It's going to be a real silly list, and I think you're going to be super mad with where everything ends up.
Oh, everyone will.
That's just how it goes, man. But no, this could be fun. Okay, so let's do this, shall we?
All right.
So I got this little app in front of me. I'll let you call it, heads or tails.
I'll say heads.
All right, here we go, and
tails. All right, tails never fails, I guess.
I guess so. I really thought you were gonna call tails.
I was trying to do like a reverse psychology on the universe. Didn't work.
Didn't work out. Okay, so I have the first one.
All right.
So I'm going with for number 100 on the list. I'm going with the game Starhawk.
Oh, okay, good. That's fine. Not on my list.
Yeah, not on your list. What if I was just like, Ocarina of Time?
I'd be like, well, actually, I don't think that's on my list either.
Ocarina of Time isn't on your list?
Nope.
Oh, no, don't even say it.
Okay.
It'll be a surprise for later. Because that's the other thing, it's like, since we're trying not to double up on one another, like something might not make it on this list just because, we both think the other person might have it on their list. So
very true.
We could just like end up in like a weird spot. So Starhawk was basically a game I've loved for a long time. That's it came out for the PS3, and I played the heck out of that game. It was basically like, it had a single player mode, but it was pretty short. I think it was only like 4 hours maybe. The bread and butter was the multiplayer, and to this day I've never seen a game with a similar style multiplayer where it's just like very, very huge maps, third person shooter type game, and you can like, it's basically like like an RTS as far as like you need to build a base. Like as soon as you start this match, you got to build a base and build this you need to build like a bunker, you need to build walls, you need to build like transpo stations for like getting vehicles and stuff like that. So, there you'd have like 16 versus 16 and stuff like that, and you'd have like half the team that would stay like defending your flag or something if you're playing CTF. Or even in a deathmatch, you'd have like builders just sitting there like building walls and building like defenses and all this stuff, and like half the team would be hopping on, like tanks and hovercrafts and all sorts of stuff. And then there's also like ships, big ships where you can have dogfights in the air. So it's like all sorts of like different things you could be doing in that game. And nothing really gets in your way of like if you just want to be like a piloting a ship and having dogfights, kind of Star Fox style, you could just do that, and, if you just want to build bases and like really fortify like your whole thing, you can do that. Or if you're just like, I was always the guy, like I loved like going off on my own on like a hover bike, just with a rocket launcher and a knife. And I would just like run in and try and like grab the flag. And it was always so much fun. So I love that game. So I definitely wanted to make sure it made it on this list.
That's fair. It's I've never played Starhawk, so I'll take your word for it. It was sounds like a fun time. Now,
yeah,
let me hit you with some knowledge for number 99.
Veto.
What I have is actually another pretty important, I think, multiplayer game. I've got Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Oh, really?
I think, yeah. So, came out in 2009, PS3, 360 generation. I think a really important Call of Duty game, to be perfectly honest. Like, these were the days where people stood in line at midnight for a Call of Duty game. It doesn't happen anymore. But
with their bags of Doritos and Mountain Dew.
That's right. Gamer fuel. No, I think this game was super important because not only did it have a really great, multiplayer system, which allowed a lot of people different play styles. Some people were running gunning with knives and they wouldn't even use a gun. They would just run around with a knife, like sprinting and have invisible footsteps or whatever it was called, lots of perks. But then you had people with like crazy machine guns where the fire rate is so freaking high that you die in like a second. But some great maps, but also a really good story mode, a really good campaign story mode that I think is forgotten today in a lot of first-person shooter games, especially Call of Duty, because it's just become basically an online game at this point. But the story mode in Call of Duty 2 is what I love the most about it, because it was a really cool story playing as Soap. You're fighting against, whatever terrorist army, and then it turns out the bad guy was like the U.S. lieutenant the whole time. I forget his name, but he had a big mustache and a giant magnum, and like you throw a knife in his eye, and it's awesome, and it's such a cool ending. Back when Infinity Ward was doing it, I don't think they're still doing it anymore. But man, what a great Call of Duty game! What a great multiplayer game! One of the first ones that I ever got to play online, because I got to the online gaming scene very late. On my crappy Wi-Fi at home back in Philly. But even that game, I got to enjoy a little bit of the online scene. And holy crap, the 360 no-scopes. I'm not sure if that was invented in Modern Warfare 2, but it was damn near perfected because holy crap, it happened all the time. So, number 99, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I know we always like to rag on Call of Duty, but I think it is a game worth remembering and a very good one.
Yeah. Not Big Red Gum? You didn't put Big Red Gum on this list?
I did like Big Red. I had it on the GameCube, which was also a very fun game. But I gave it to Modern Warfare 2 just because of the multiplayer scene, which I think also, it was one of I don't want to say one of the founders of the big multiplayer scene, the online battle scene that's now taken over the world of video games. But I think it was an important one because, again, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 became like a staple for the online gaming scene.
No, straight up, it kind of set the world on fire as far as like FPSs go.
Yeah.
Like online FPSs. I mean, I feel like people that were playing Halo back in the day that got a little older and wanted to graduate to something even more like, I guess mature.
Right. More
like
real.
Kind of jumped into, yeah, exactly. So kind of jumped into that. Like I know a lot of people when I was in like middle school, we were playing Halo. When they got to high school, they were playing like nothing but like Call of Duty, Modern Warfare.
Modern Warfare, baby.
Yeah, it's just like that. Yeah, I mean, it definitely, one of those games. As much as like I'm not a big fan of the Call of Duty franchise.
Same, but even I had that game. I had that game and I played it. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story more than the online play, just because I'm that kind of person. But the online play, I can't knock it. It was really good.
Sure. All right. So number 98. Here we go. Sticking with multiplayers is Goldeneye.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well deserved.
So obviously, I wanted to make sure Goldeneye made it on this list, but I don't think it's held up very well.
No.
But it's something where it's just like, man, that game back in the day was like, speaking of like console multiplayer games, like, man, Goldeneye was where it was at. Like, me and my buddies, we had played like, Goldeneye and, like the original Smash Brothers for the 64 and like Mario Party and like Mario Kart 64. And like those games were just amazing multiplayer games. And I actually, like, I love the campaign. I think I probably played that campaign like 20-30 times. Like, it's because there was always like super silly stuff you could do in that game, especially like once you add the Game Shark to it. It's just like you would do like big head mode, or you would just be invisible.
I loved like, running through walls. You just get to the end of a stage in like 30 seconds.
Or like I would just like I would try and just go through like the whole map with like just the throwing knives or like something silly. Or I started you could play like paintball mode and just like start like painting like pictures on the wall. Just stupid stuff. I mean, that game was ridiculous.
Rare, man. Gotta give it up for Rare.
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure that made it on this list. I think that was like such a awesome game back in the day, and like I said, doesn't really I don't think holds up these days, but like at the time, especially for a licensed game, there haven't been like, you could probably count them on two hands how many like good licensed games there are out there.
Sure.
And a game based off of James Bond really shouldn't be that good. Even though it's kind of like, cause you can make an FPS out of it, but man, I loved GoldenEye, and there's a couple other like games like Nightfire and stuff I really liked as well, but I think the crown goes to GoldenEye.
Well deserved, I think.
Yeah.
So that was number 97, right? 98.
98.
Okay, I'm odds. Okay, it's gonna be hard to keep track of the numbering. Okay, 97. I know you've never been a big fan of the series. I personally love this game, and I think it's well-deserved, probably higher on some people's list, but Fallout 3.
Yeah, I figured you'd be putting Fallout on this list.
I think Fallout 3 is still the best 3D, Fallout game. 2008, I think it might have been Game of the Year that year, I'm not sure, but the Bethesda game worth remembering if there ever was one. Fallout 3 took you to Washington, D.C. in a post-apocalyptic world. Your dad was Liam Neeson, which was cool. That's the first, I think that might have been the first game where I was like, oh my God, that's like an actor. Like, he does movies, outside of like silly movie games where the actors are basically forced to be in a video game and you get to tell the voice acting. They don't care what they're doing.
Yeah, they don't care. They don't even know like what a video game is.
Yeah, exactly. But like that one had Liam Neeson, and like he raises you as a baby, and then your quest is just find out what happened to your dad. And what I loved the most about it was the level up system, because every level you get a new perk, and by the time you reach the end of your leveling up, you are basically God walking through the wasteland, and it is so much fun. And not only that, I played it on the PS3, but I know on PC, the modding for Fallout 3 was incredible. Changing up environments, changing up enemies, changing your own character. Just a huge world to have fun in, to play with, giant sandboxy game. Tons of interesting characters, like a vampire side mission with weird, people who think they're vampires. And like just one of the very first missions in the game, you get to choose whether you want to blow up a town with a nuke. And it's such a cool, like if you do it, it's such a cool visual where you're just like, you're just like miles away on a building top and you just see a giant mushroom cloud. And you're like, I did that. I'm a monster. But it's fun, you know. They have a karma system. You could totally be evil if you want or be good. You know, you could change up how you play the game. And like I said, like once you reach your final level up and you're basically do whatever you want, you can just run around that world, you know, destroy everything, kill everybody, steal anything you want. It's so much fun to just be like kind of like a mini god and just doing whatever you want in that game.
Yeah.
Love Fallout 3.
Does the karma system affect the outcome of that game?
Nah. Man, you find your dad. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, I think your dad will die regardless. Spoilers, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, spoilers.
Yeah, what? It came out 2008.
Yeah, it's gonna pass.
Yeah, so I think it's gonna happen regardless, but it'll definitely change how people interact with you.
You're like holding your dad on his deathbed, and you're like, "Don't worry, I nuked all those people, you know, in that village."
I stole your wallet, Dad. But no, it's such a fun game, and I love big single player games like that, and you know, it's a great RPG, and I still think it's the best Fallout game that's come out. You know, New Vegas was also really good, but compared to the others, I still think Fallout 3 is the standout and the best one that's come out.
For sure. And that's an interesting series where it's like Fallout 3, they really took that game in like a completely new direction. Like,
yeah,
I never played the originals, but as far as I'm aware, they're like basically like point and click adventure type games.
Yeah.
You know, like point and click, like PC games,
yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. And, you know, still like RPG elements and stuff to it. But, you know, obviously this is like, you know, Bethesda, I think, bought the rights for Fallout, then kind of took it in a completely new direction with like Todd Howard and that whole gang.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, Fallout definitely deserves to be on the list. Okay. Number 96. Here we go. And, you know, kind of keeping with like open world-ish games, post-apocalyptic, all that fun stuff. I got a game for you. Death Stranding is coming on the list.
That one?
Oh, yeah. Dude,
the
Death
walking
Stranding,
simulator?
Oh, man. It's so much more than that. You know, when I played that game, listen up here. When I played that game, you know, it especially like I played that game at like the height of COVID,
right?
And you know, it really like whether you know Kojima was like meaning it to do this or not, like it kind of it really had a lot of like one-to-one comparisons with like sort of the world we sort of like fell into with like, you know, everybody was just like just kind of stuck at home, and really what like saved us a lot of times were people delivering stuff to us.
Oh
you
yeah.
know? And that's kind of what this whole game is. It's like, you know, you really just talk to like people's holograms and you know, you're basically like delivering things to people because like you really can't go out into the world anymore.
Right.
And the whole game just has this like weird feeling of like isolation and disconnection with like other humans. And it's just like a very interesting world and like a very different concept than like things that I've played before. And I really went in thinking I wasn't going to like that game. And you know, the story's real weird and funky because it's Kojima, but I really liked a lot of the things it was doing, and it's very different than a lot of games that are out there. I don't really know what else to really compare it to, because you know, it's like it's an open world ish, and you know, you're basically kind of exploring things with objectives, but you know, and it's like almost like fetch quest based, but there's a lot more to it than that, and it just has like a lot of like interesting layers to it, and the social aspect to it is really interesting as well because, you know, in the world you can basically like build bridges and stuff like that to help other people playing the game, and so yeah, it's a whole game about like reconnecting with people, and
right.
you know, I think it kind of stands out as a an interesting game, especially kind of looking at it from the perspective of like being within the pandemic.
Right, in lockdown. Yeah, for sure. I think I read about that somewhere as well, where it's like, man, you never feel like so alone until you play like something like Death Stranding. Like it's very kind of isolation kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. That's fair. All right.
No veto?
Nah, I'm not gonna veto it because I think the next one on my list might upset you with its spot.
All right.
Okay, so this is number 95, right?
Yep.
Okay, 95. Tetris.
Oh my God.
That's right. Tetris.
Oh, no.
95.
That's like a top 20 game.
You're
dog.
probably right, but on mine it's number 48. Not
Whoa.
95 is Tetris. Launched probably one of the greatest launch titles ever.
If not the best.
Yeah, one of the greatest because Tetris spanned not just the video game community. This was a worldwide phenomenon where anybody who didn't understand video games, who didn't like video games, everybody liked Tetris. It's a simple puzzle game, but it's something that it speaks a common language across all of humanity, which is beautiful. Out for the Game Boy. The only reason I really know about Tetris is because my grandma had a Game Boy when I was younger. So whenever I went to her house, if my parents had to go out or whatever, she would let me play her Game Boy and I would play Tetris because it was either Tetris on her Game Boy or the Nintendo in my grandma's house, and she had like a Moses game for Nintendo called Exodus. So I went with Tetris a lot. And even as a kid, you realize like it is probably one of the greatest self-teaching video games. You don't need a tutorial, you don't need instructions really, you just need to understand shapes. And that's it. And it does it, and it presents it in a very beautiful, clean way that, again, speaks across any language. Like anybody can figure out Tetris. That's what makes it so amazing and such a unique game. And like you said, probably the greatest launch title of all time. I definitely consider it one of the best. But I put it really high because, again, my list, right? This is about games that I had fun, and like these are games that mean a lot to me, and so I remember it just being at my grandmother's house, being like, "Well, this is all you got, huh? All right, well, I guess I'll play this." So that's what I would play.
I hate shapes.
I was like, "There's no action, like there's no Mega Man, there's nothing." But I enjoyed it for what it was, and I understood it even at 5 years old or whatever. I understood the concept and I got it. So yeah, Tetris. Yeah. I think Tetris. Now I don't know if you want to veto that for its placement, but it's definitely deserving to be up there.
Yeah, man. I had that at number 20 on my list.
Suck it, nerd.
Oh man. All right, Tetris number 95. That hurts. Oh man, I should just throw some garbage on here just to be like, screw you. All right. Next on my list, number 94, I have Animal Crossing for the GameCube.
Really?
Oh yeah,
right,
Animal Crossing for the game. So I think
whatever.
Animal Crossing is like such an interesting series, and I was kind of going back and forth on like which one of the Animal Crossing should like make it onto this list, and I went with the GameCube version for one specific reason. It's because it's the only Animal Crossing where you can buy, or you can basically get NES consoles and put them in your house and play an entire NES game within Animal Crossing. So you could just play Super Mario Brothers, you could play Metroid, you could play The Legend of Zelda, you could play like all these NES games within Animal Crossing. Like the whole game is there. It's not like a demo or anything. And I've spent a lot of time with the Animal Crossing series, and I've always enjoyed farming simulator type games and kind of life simulator type games, and I don't know, there's something special about Animal Crossing that just keeps people coming back.
That's very true. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I for some reason a lot of people just love it.
Yeah, it's just like I played a lot of it back in like high school, and it's just like a very chill, relaxing game. You can share, you can kind of show your friends like your town.
Yeah.
so in the DS version, you could you could go and like visit other people's towns. So it's just there's a lot to love about the old Animal Crossing
Now,
games.
can I veto it for Animal Crossing New Horizon?
Oh,
And can I just give you a short
suppose.
argument? This is the only reason why
Yeah,
it would be this. Now, the Nintendo games that they offer in the GameCube version is very strong. Like that's one of the greatest things about that game. However, I present New Horizons just because it was literally a savior during the pandemic.
it's true.
People were going on dates in Animal Crossing. Like people were meeting up in groups to hang out because they couldn't see each other in person. People got to know each other, and got to socialize through Animal Crossing, and it was something that it like crossed like everybody, like celebrities, Hollywood people, like actors and stuff were posting about how they were playing Animal Crossing. It spanned like so many different types of people, and it was just because, and I'm only saying this because it was like, it probably wouldn't have been successful, if there wasn't a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that because, and I'm only bringing it up because during the pandemic, it was one of the only socializing outlets people had, and it was something that brought people together because like you said, you could visit each other's towns, you could trade turnips or whatever, you could do everything you can in Animal Crossing, and you get to hang out with people that you couldn't see in person. And it might have saved a lot of people, like maybe mentally, because, a lot of people being isolated for so long, a lot of people live by themselves, and it was the one outlet they had of socializing and feeling
Yep.
like they were visiting somewhere, because it's not just like meeting up in a lobby to play a video game together. It was like you're visiting someone's home because people decorate, Animal Crossing the way they would like to decorate their own space. So that's the only reason
All right. All
I
right.
would present it as an alternate to the GameCube version.
So you're vetoing Animal Crossing GameCube for New Horizon?
If you allow that. I don't, it's kind of weird we don't have someone to judge the veto
No, that's all
argument.
right.
But that's what I would present that as the argument to the GameCube
Yeah.
version, just because of the pandemic.
That's fine. I mean, I'd say it's a strong veto. I'll allow that.
Nice.
But I get the next go again.
You do.
Yeah. So because of that, I'll go ahead and add this game into number 93. This one I had it like off my list, but I'm sticking it in now.
Okay.
Street Fighter 2.
Oh, that was my very next one.
Oh snap! Yeah, I think we're like in the same boat here, where it's just like that game needs to be on this list somewhere. Like I wouldn't rank this in my like top games
Yeah.
because I've never been like a huge like fighting game fan.
Yep.
But or at least not that kind of fighting. Like I'm a huge like Smash Bros
Right.
player, but like as far as like heavy button combo type games,
Yeah.
I've never gotten too into. But that game really like to this day, like that game holds up incredibly well.
Every version.
And I love all the characters. I think like there are all these interesting characters from like all over the world, and like these really interesting stages. The music's great. Like you really want to like learn about these characters and like what's going on. Why is this big Russian man body slamming poor Chun-Li?
Yeah.
Like I want to hear this story of these people.
Yeah.
And, obviously fighting games you don't get much story, but I love like there's an interesting world in there.
There is. Who is this M. Bison and his Shadow Lu? Who is he?
Yeah. Sup Vega. That guy can he can just F
Fake
off.
Wolverine.
Man, that guy was annoying to fight. Every
Yeah.
time he's just like jumping around like, yo, get down here. I'm trying to kick you.
Yeah. Well deserving. Well deserving.
Yeah.
Street Fighter 2. That was
Well,
your
that's cool.
was that 92? Was that where we're at?
That
now?
was number 93.
93.
So you have
Okay,
92.
I'm at 92. I'm going to stay in the same genre. And I'm actually going to stay in the same kind of ballpark as well with a fighting game that crossed over with Street Fighter 2. Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Oh, snap.
Arcade, PS2 version. I love the arcade version. Talk about a crossover of all crossovers. Probably one of the greatest we've ever seen. taking so many popular Marvel characters and then crossing it over with Capcom, Street Fighter characters, Mega Man characters from Resident Evil, like two great libraries that meet up that have no reason to meet up because it's totally different.
Exactly.
It's across you've got a Japanese company, video game company, and then you've got an American comic book, company. For some reason they cross.
Crazy.
It is. It's one of the weirdest crossovers that's just like super random, but man, did it just freaking clicked. It's such a great arcade game. I remember in arcades, like people would be surrounding people that were playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2 because it was always just like these dream scenarios like what? Wolverine, Spider-Man, and like Doctor Doom are teaming up to fight like Wesker, and what's the I forget his name from Bionic Commando, but whatever his name is. All these weird characters that should not be meeting, but they're all meeting.
And also, frickin' Sentinel, man! What a like giant character to just like have like in a fighting. I mean, the dude takes up half the frickin' level.
Yeah, and like all these characters, like Venom and Spider-Man, and it was just really cool to see them all mesh and talk about a beautiful game. I love when sprite animations are done right, and that game does sprite animation like so beautifully. Like it's just such a good looking game, and it plays like super smooth and flawlessly. You can juggle somebody in the air for so long. Captain America. It is, but and you have no reason to be jumping as high as you can jump in that game. You can go so like up like 3 stories, it feels like. But when you get Captain America throwing a shield and Iron Man shooting out a giant cannon out of his shoulder, and then Mega Man, showing up against fighting all these people, it's so much fun. It's such a good game. It's so cool to see all these characters interact because they really shouldn't be. There's no reason Marvel and Capcom should be doing a crossover, but they did, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, and it's like, how many crossover games really are there that are really, really good? Could you name more than that and like Smash Brothers?
There's
and I guess there's also like the like DC versus Mortal Kombat game as well.
That one wasn't that good.
Yeah, but it's like, what other crossover games are there that really just like, yep, this is like firing on all cylinders?
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, there's probably a Lego game that crosses over some multiple IPs. But
there's that one. Isn't that like Lego Universe or whatever that one is, where it's like you can play as like Sonic and Homer Simpson? And
it's kind of ridiculous.
All sorts of stuff. Yeah.
But I mean, there aren't too many. Yeah. But that one is gorgeous, and it stood test of time, and it's still fun to play today.
Yeah.
And the lobby music is great.
Agree.
I want to take you for a ride. Like, it's such a silly
dude,
lobby music.
I love that song.
Yeah.
And that song doesn't even really make any sense.
It doesn't.
Like, I don't know. Like, you would think they would have like a combination of like some more like music from the Capcom games mixed in with like some stuff from like maybe the early Marvel movies or something. No, it's like kind of its own weird like soundtrack.
Yeah, just
Very
this
strange.
weird arcadey music. But it's fun.
Yeah. All right. Number 91. Not a fighting game. Although there's I guess there's fighting elements to it, sort of, kinda. Give it up for Kirby Superstar.
Oh my god, that's the people that made Smash, the original Smash.
Yeah, HAL Labs, Kirby Superstar, I think, is like the primo Kirby game. Like that's,
definitely one of the best.
If you had to pick one Kirby game, I mean, Kirby Superstar kind of has it all. Like, there's like 6 different games like in one, where it's like, and 3 of those have like their own stories, and you can go through that whole game like with a friend, and I mean, there's so many different abilities. It's just like the fight with Meta Knight is awesome. There's
Gourmet Race is really fun.
Gourmet Race is crazy fun.
Yeah.
The little martial arts challenge where you're you have to karate chop the block, and if you do it just right, you could literally like split the world in half.
You crack the earth and
Yeah, it's like, dude, that game is sweet, and
Yeah.
and there's also like I can't remember the name of it. It's the one where you're like collecting treasures. I think it's like
Yeah. I know what you're
such
talking
an
about.
interesting, like, different type of Kirby game where it's like, instead of like a straight just you're going forward and just beating stuff up, you're really like exploring the world and trying to hunt for these treasures. And man, I dumped so many hours into that game
Yeah.
with my buddy Thomas. Like, I mean, we would just sit there drinking Surge and eating King Kit Kat bars and just like plowing through that game over and over. It was just something about it that was like so much fun to play. And you know, if you got tired of like one of the stories, you could go and play like I like the duel thing where,
Yep.
you know, you have like the little like samurai
It's like a
knives
samurai
or, you know,
showdown.
samurai swords.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably what it was called. It was probably like called Samurai Showdown.
Yes,
I can't remember,
I forget what it's called, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like it was a great, it's probably, I would definitely say like, I don't want to say, I don't know if it's the best Kirby game, but definitely one of the best Kirby games. You know,
Yeah.
and honestly, there were I would say there's really three great Kirby games, and that's definitely one of them.
Word.
For sure. All right, not bad, not bad. I like it. So this is number 90. Yeah? Right? Number 90?
Number 90.
Number 90. We're going to go to the mobile platform, and we're going to go with Pokemon Go. Pokemon.
Yeah, you know, I thought Pokemon Go was going to make it on your list.
It absolutely does. It is well deserving of it. Not only is it, you know, a pretty fun game, you know, that you can just turn on while you're going for a walk, and it kind of does its own thing, and it does what you need it to do. But holy crap, talk about like a moment in history for our lives. Pokemon Go, when it was introduced, I was still living in Philly, and I remember walking to like a park downtown, and there were hundreds of people, all our age, doing the same thing. And everyone spoke the same language, and everyone was there to catch Pokemon. And I remember like waiting for it to be released. Like that night it was released, we like people and a couple of my neighbors, we all walked outside at the exact same time looking for Pokemon. And that first night it wasn't great. Like there was barely anything to catch there. You know, I don't think the servers could handle the amount of users that were online at that moment. But I remember walking around with my neighbors trying to catch like a Squirtle that kept like eluding us. And you know, it was just, like a friend of mine joked about this, and he was like, I've been waiting my whole life to walk around and catch a Pokemon, and I can finally do it. Yeah. And it was such a heartwarming moment, I think, in my life, because I saw like so many different people all wanting to do the same thing, and there was no malice, there was nothing to fight over. It was just, let's all walk around and catch some Pokemon together and live like our, you know, like we were 8 years old, 9 years old when Pokemon first came out on the Game Boy, except we can do it together now. And it was just such a great, like, it is honestly one of the most heartwarming things that I've ever experienced in my life, seeing just hundreds of people with the same goal, you know, not arguing about it, not fighting about it. Because there's nothing really, when it was first released, there's nothing to argue about. There's nothing to fight over. You know, it was still very raw. It was just, let's go catch Pokemon. And it was just a really beautiful moment, and I loved it. And you know, it will always be one of my favorite video game memories just because of the social aspect of it. So
yeah, it definitely, yeah, it's kind of its own thing. And you know, I could tell you, like, before Pokemon Go, you know, years leading up to that, you know, people were like, I want a Pokemon MMO, I want a Pokemon MMO. And
yeah,
Nintendo and Pokemon Company and Niantic found their own solution to like a Pokemon MMO, where it's just like you're living in the real world, going around catching Pokemon. It's like such a fascinating idea.
Yeah,
and it worked.
Set the world on fire. It really did. It was, and you're right. Set the world on fire is right, because it was like huge. Does not like cover how big it was. It was massive. And if you weren't there for it, it really sucks, because it was really something to behold.
Nice. That's a good number 90. All right, so 89. I have here Splinter Cell Chaos Theory.
Man, I never played that game.
Oh man. It was fantastic. So the thing is, I wanted to put a Splinter Cell in here, and I was kind of going back and forth on this one because, I think the prize kind of goes to the original Splinter Cell just because of like its there really wasn't like anything like that, as far as stealth games at the time. Um came out for the original Xbox first, and then it came to GameCube, PS2, and I love stealth games, and that really like scratched that itch. And then Pandora Tomorrow came out, and then Chaos Theory is the third game, and Chaos Theory just takes everything from the first two games and just perfects it. And Splinter Cell has never been as good as Chaos Theory. They've made a few games since then, and it's just like they're just chasing that, that perfect game again. It's just like if you are a stealth, if you like stealth games, like Chaos Theory absolutely will be on your list. As it's like a perfect stealth game.
What generation was that?
That's PS2, GameCube,
nice,
and Xbox, and it's kind of like at the tail end of those consoles. And I mean, the game was beautiful at the time. I mean, it was a stunning game, and
nice.
At the time, it's just like games will never look as good as this game. Like it was that good.
Yeah.
And, their work of like lighting and shadows and stuff was like stellar. The rain effects were really good. I mean, that game was awesome.
Very nice.
I loved Splinter Cell Chaos Theory.
I won't argue with that. I mean, I've never played a Splinter Cell game, any of the Tom Clancy, the Sam Fishers, but I've only heard, they were always fun, and clearly it's a very popular franchise. It keeps, hasn't died, so that's awesome. Oh, yeah. I got nothing to say against that. All right,
number
88, right? 88.
88.
Okay, I'm very happy you're keeping track of this because I
oh yeah, I got you. I'm writing them all down.
Numbers are hard. All right, 88. Let me take you to a galaxy far, far away. All right.
Oh, it's probably what is literally next to my list.
I don't think it is, because a lot of people will say the same Star Wars games are their best. Knights of the Old Republic, The Force Unleashed, whatever the one at the arcades were. I think it was just called Star Wars, the arcade game. A lot of people have the same ones on their list, but I guarantee you nobody has Super Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back for the Super Nintendo.
All right.
Let me tell you why this game is so good. All right. It's got nothing. It's, first off, I love the Super Nintendo. I have very fond memories of Super Nintendo. We all know it's my favorite console of all time. What made that game so much fun was putting in the cheat code for all the force powers and unlimited force power. Okay. Because when you have unlimited force power energy, because basically you have like a mana bar and a health bar, but instead of mana, it's your force bar, whatever, your force power.
Yeah.
When you're able to fly around the stage in a circle, spinning a lightsaber, being invincible, it is so satisfying. Because those Star Wars games on Super Nintendo, I don't know if you ever played them, but there's a lot happening on screen at once. There's always a ton of enemies. Sure. There's bombs, explosions, lasers being shot at you from places you can't see. Being able to fly around with unlimited force power, spinning in a Sonic the Hedgehog spinball with a lightsaber, and just destroying everything in your path is so much fun. Not only that, but I love that they had the ability to deflect in that game, where you literally stand there with your lightsaber and Luke just goes like this. He holds it in front of him and you can deflect laser blasts right back at enemies. As like a 5-year-old playing that on a Super Nintendo, I was like, oh my God, you can counter. You can reflect attacks back at your enemy. I've never seen that before in a game. This is 1994, I think that game came out, or something like that. As a child, I've never witnessed a counter maneuver in a game before. And it was like, it blew my mind. I was like, you can reflect an attack back at your enemy. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And I can play as Luke Skywalker, I can play as Han Solo, and I can play as Chewbacca. And I love all three of them, nice. And it's so much fun. Again, I know Knights of the Old Republic is probably a better game. I know, actually, it is a better game. I understand that The Force Unleashed is a better game. I understand that the new one with what's it called? The Forgotten Jedi, or
the
Last Order or something like that. I forget what it's called. The new one, I'm sure that's a better game, and a lot of people love that one. But Super Star Wars, specifically Empire, because the last fight's with Darth Vader, and he throws you out of a window when you're done, when you beat him.
Yeah.
It is so much fun. And it's just because of putting in cheat codes to get unlimited force power, because you get to throw your lightsaber, you can turn invisible, you can fly around the stage. It is so great. Love that game.
All right. Yeah, that's one I never picked that one up, so
Man.
I can't argue with it, but
So much fun.
you love it. All right. Number 88, Super Star Wars. Empire Strikes Back. Okay, number 87, Staying in Space. I thought you were going a different direction with this, but number 87, I have Mass Effect 2.
Oh my god, that's like my next. Well, it's not my next one. It's my next one. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, once again, like it's one of those games like that needs to be on this list somewhere. I mean, Mass Effect in general is like a stellar series, but I think Mass Effect 2 is, in my opinion, the best out of the original trilogy. And I mean, what an amazing world to like explore and just talk to people and just make like really tough decisions. And I mean, there was just a lot going on in that game as far as like, kind of commanding your team and your different powers and stuff. And I mean, just walking around talking to people alone, I think is like stellar. And there had to have been like a script with
thousands,
like 10,000 pages. I mean, it is, every decision would splinter off into like a different outcome, and it was just freaking amazing.
Yeah, trying to end the game with your whole team intact is such a great challenge, and I loved being able to change up your squad depending on the mission. So much fun.
Yeah. My boy Rex.
Yeah, he was awesome. I've always liked what's his name? He looks like a roach. Forget his name. Begins with a G.
Oh yeah. The hot one. I can't remember his name.
I forget his name. Ganth?
Yeah.
No. Because the Geth are the bad guys. Oh my god.
People are probably yelling at us right now.
I'm so disappointed. What the heck? Oh, hold on. It's gonna bug me now. Garrus. I knew it was a G-A. I was like, Gas, something like that. Yeah, Garrus. Garrus is awesome. I love Garrus.
Yeah, no, Garrus is... That man's awesome.
Yeah.
I love Garrus.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so definitely wanted to get that game on here.
All right.
Love it.
That was my next one after this one.
All right, lay it on me.
So 86, right? 86?
Yep.
Crash Bandicoot 2.
Ooh, that's the best one, too.
It is. Crash Bandicoot deserves to be on the list just because of their marketing alone. Going to Nintendo HQ with a man in a Crash Bandicoot outfit with a megaphone calling out Mario, which is one of the greatest ad campaigns. That's why I miss the 90s. I miss the rivalry with video game companies and their silly, ridiculous ad campaigns. Like Sega and PS1 just had to be all about attitude while Nintendo was doing their own thing, just ignoring them kind of. But like seeing Crash Bandicoot going to the Nintendo HQ with a megaphone calling out Mario is hilarious. But besides that, the actual gameplay of Crash Bandicoot 2 is super fun. Going through
I love the boss fights.
Yeah, boss fights are very imaginative, very fun. You get a jetpack in that game. You get to fly in space. Collecting Wumpa fruit is great. It's such a ridiculous concept of this animal mascot, and his dad or his guardian is like a tiki mask. It's so weird. It doesn't make any sense, but it's smooth. It's fun. It's one of those 3D platformers that everyone knows and recognizes and remembers, and it's the best one. It's out of that original trilogy. It is far and ahead the best one of its series. And again, it's mainly because of what they did to advertise themselves that makes it memorable for me. Like I remember seeing those commercials as a kid and just. I thought it was so funny. I was like, what is this game about? I have to play it. And it worked. It got a lot of people to play it, and it became Sony's mascot, essentially, for a long time. So, Crash Bandicoot 2, just love that
good game.
Very good game.
Definitely, and I think definitely the best in the series. Like, better than Warped and some of the other ones after that. So, definitely deserves to be on here somewhere. Probably closer to 100, but, I'll take it at 85.
Yeah.
All right, so, number 85... let's see here. What do I have next? This one was coming eventually for me. I'm throwing Dishonored 2 on here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was thinking about the Dishonored games and which one I wanted to stick on here. And while I think Dishonored, one kind of, it's kind of a brand new series and was doing something like this amazing world, and you're kind of free to explore these different sandboxes. And I had never really played a game up until that point where you had so many different options. I think Dishonored 2 just takes everything Dishonored 1 did and just doubles down on it. And I mean, to this day, I mean, like if you were going into like game design, if I was teaching a class in game design, I would be like, go play Super Mario Brothers, go play Mega Man X, go play Dishonored 2, and
Sure.
Because like Dishonored 2's maps are absolutely ingenious. The way that you really feel like you can't be held back in any way. You could just you just take all these like magic powers and you're like scaling buildings in weird ways, and you're taking people out in weird ways, and it's just like there's never a time where they're just like, whoa, you can't be doing that. No. It's just like, no, you can do that.
Yeah.
And in fact, like I read so many articles about Dishonored and Dishonored 2 where it's just like, yeah, we would have people game test our game and they would be doing stuff we didn't even like know was possible, because you're just like given all these amazing tools.
Right.
And
just
it's
experimenting
like,
at that point.
Yeah. Go break our game, and that just tells you how good that game is, where it's just like, no matter what you do to that game, it's like it allows you to do it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing for that.
Someday I'll play through it and enjoy it. Someday.
Someday.
Okay. This one was supposed to be Mass Effect 2, but you took it. So I'm putting in my alternate.
All right.
And one of my favorite, but wait, this is 80.
This is 84.
84. One of my favorite PlayStation 1 games ever to come out, and I still think it's one of the best ever released. Ape Escape.
Ooh.
Ape Escape, not only is it just a very charming, very fun, very simple game, it is the first game that required you to play with the DualShock analog controller. Because that game is all sticks. It's everything about it is those sticks. And playing that for the first time, I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. But then once you get it, it made sense, and it changed the way I played a video game from that point forward. Because, nowadays everything is dual analog.
Yeah.
And that game introduced it to me because it forced me to. And I loved every second of it. I never looked back. Like, at first I wasn't comfortable with it. Like, I was always, D-pad. You use the D-pad to do everything. But that game made you use the sticks, and the D-pad was kind of irrelevant. But it worked. I don't know how long they took to perfect it, but they did it, and it worked like a charm. It was very, very good gameplay. Switching up your items and using them with your right stick while you use your left stick to move. It felt natural. It felt good. It never felt bad. Even the camera, it was really good at following you to make sure that right stick could be used as your weapon, because typically it's your camera nowadays. But It was used as your weapon stick, and it felt good, and it felt natural. It never felt weird or forced. The items in that game are super fun. You get an RC car at one point. You get what looks like a boat paddle, but it's like a helicopter oar. It's ridiculous, but super fun. You're chasing monkeys who have machine guns who are shooting at you that you're trying to catch. It's a ridiculous concept. And the other thing about it that's great, it had mini games where you could do boxing with monkeys, which was super fun. You got this weird Galaga style mini game where you're a monkey in a spaceship and you're just shooting everything around you, and it was such a fun mini game. Like, I spent probably just as much time on the mini games as I did the main game, and you get to just travel throughout history and catch monkeys, and it's ridiculous, but it's so much fun. And I really wish that franchise would make a comeback, but that first game is still, I think, damn near perfect. And one of the best that the PS1 had to offer.
All right. Cool. I think that's a good 84 then. Sticking with PS1, here for number 83, I have Harvest Moon Back to Nature.
Oh my God, Harvest Moon game.
Oh yeah. So once again, I wanted to make sure Harvest Moon got a little love on this list. Like this game, like I love a good like farming simulator game. And I think to this day, Harvest Moon Back to Nature for the PS1, which is also Harvest Moon 64, is probably the best farming simulator game. I think it does everything right. I love the characters in that world. I love like the different characters you can romance in that world. It was just like, and there were like so many layers to it. I was playing through that game with my buddy Thomas, and we played a lot of games back in the day.
Sure.
And he started he married a woman in his game. I believe her name is Ellie, if I'm not mistaken. And I was like, hey, what if like you just started being mean to her? What would happen? And he's like, well, let's find out. So he just every day he would wake up and he'd go, we were kind of playing the game together. So we'd we'd go pick weeds and we'd bring them home and give them to his wife. And she'd be like, why are you giving this to me? And like, slowly but surely, like the little heart meter would go down. And eventually she moved out with the kid.
Oh, wow.
And she moved back like because I guess her dad's a doctor, and she like moved back into like the doctor's office where
That's
she's
funny.
a nurse as well.
That's so funny.
And then like, we're just doing silly things in that game. So our character would get so tired, he would like pass out, and you would wake up like at the doctor's office, and then you would have like a really uncomfortable conversation with your wife. Like once you wake up, where it's just like, I worry about you, and like all this stuff. I'm like, did they really think people were gonna do this? Like,
that's awesome.
I mean, it was super impressive for like the PS1 to like have so much depth to a game where it's just like you can marry this woman, she can leave you, you can and then you could just have like these like kind of branching like dialogue options with with this woman. While you're also like romancing somebody else on the side, and like
I love that. That's awesome.
It was just so crazy at the time to kind of have so many options. But I mean, it was just all around like a great game. Even just playing it straight up, like
right,
very just like kind of chill farming simulator. And to this day, like I love the animals in the game. They're super cute, like the cows and the sheep and stuff.
Right.
Adorable.
Nice.
I got my little
you have a sheep, right?
Yeah, I got a sheep named Bacon, which is
right.
like the name of my sheep. And pretty much all, like I start with a sheep named Bacon, I start with a cow named Coco. I just so I got a little Bacon plushie from
Nice.
Harvest Moon. So yeah, I love that game.
All right, I won't argue with that. This is number 80 now, right?
82.
82. We're going back to fighting genre.
All right.
2011 release, MK9, or just Mortal Kombat as it was called. Kind of a soft reboot of the series. It was kind of a retelling of the original story, specifically the PS3 version, because it was a great fighting game. It's still my favorite Mortal Kombat game. I love the fighting system in it. I love the fatalities. The move sets were really great. I love the characters you could play as. But the PS3 version I loved specifically because you got DLC of Kratos and Freddy Krueger, and
that's pretty sweet.
It was so much fun to play as Kratos and Freddy Krueger against like Sub-Zero and Rain and all these characters. A great fighting game. I believe it was at 60 FPS. It was just smooth gameplay. It was just really great gameplay. It's still my favorite just because me and my friends back then would play it all the time, and it was our next to before Injustice, besides Smash, this was our favorite fighting game that we played against. Street Fighter I still think could not compare to what MK9 was doing at the time. Just great gameplay, very interesting story, fun retelling of the Mortal Kombat story. And just great characters. Like every single character is memorable and really fun to play as. So, I know Mortal Kombat, like it deserves a spot just because of what it did for history. But MK9 specifically for me is my favorite one. It is so good.
I think that also really brought back Mortal Kombat in a big way.
Yeah.
There was a lot of 3D Mortal Kombat games before that were really
bad. Really bad.
And I think the first game that they started to kind of get it right was I think it was that Mortal Kombat versus DC game. You know, like the bones were there.
Yeah.
And then after that, like MK9 came out, and it's like, oh man, like Mortal Kombat is on top of its game again.
Yeah, this is what a fighting game should be. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, and I think since then, like X and 11, like they just keep just firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I totally agree. Mortal Kombat 9 totally should be on this list.
And it's the PS3 version because you get to play as Kratos and Freddy Krueger.
Word. Okay, so next one on my list, I would say some people would have it much higher, but I think it's I wanted to stick it somewhere on here, and I honestly I didn't know where to put it on my list, but I loved this game. I still love it. I think it still holds up. Number 81, I have Doom.
Oh,
the original
Doom. That is well deserving, and I think it's a good place.
Yeah, I could easily see that being in somebody's top 10 because it's like
revolutionary.
Yeah, I mean it really was, and to this day still holds up. And it's also just like, once again, as far as level design and stuff like that goes, I mean, I think that's like a great example of a game to kind of look at. And to this day, like people are still doing things with that game in interesting ways. Like just recently, there's a scientist having mice play through Doom. Basically
awesome.
like Doom, like running through the Doom levels and stuff. And there's somebody not too long ago that programmed one of those electronic pregnancy tests to play Doom.
Yeah, I read about that somewhere. Yeah, that's awesome. It's so cool.
Yeah, so it's like to this day, like people are still doing like really interesting things with Doom, and like the new Doom games are incredible. And I thought about putting one of those on here, and I was like, no, I got to go with the OG Doom game.
I've seen a video of someone putting that one on like one of those Texas calculators, those high school ones. Yeah, you play it on the calculator. Yeah, no. Plus, it also had one of the greatest tracks of all time. Yeah,
I love that game. Like, man, everything about it is fantastic.
Yeah, well deserving. It's a good spot. I think it's a very good spot.
All right.
Okay, number 80, right? 80. We're at 80.
Yep, 80.
I'm going back in time to the NES era. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Oh, that's a great one to be on here.
Yeah, dude. It's just my favorite boxing game of all time. Is still, the original Mike Tyson Punch-Out.
Yeah.
Playing as, Little Mac, going against these really wacky characters that are very unique and very fun. I still think King Hippo is my favorite because he's so just silly. This giant fat guy with like a Band-Aid on his belly button that you need to punch. It's a great game. A great soundtrack for an NES game. Like I love the music in that game. Really simple game design, but really well executed game design. And when you get good with timing in that game, man, you could be like untouchable. And you can knock people out so fast if you got the timing down and you understand the rhythm and the pattern. Great gameplay, love it. And plus Mario's the referee, which is just super cool to see. I love that.
Yeah, and it's also like a couple things. Like one, obviously there's a regular Punch-Out that just doesn't have Mike Tyson in it, and it's basically the same game, but then they just added Mike Tyson. Yeah. And it's just like this weird collaboration between a boxer and Nintendo.
Yep.
It's very weird. But it's also like when you really think about it, Punch-Out is straight up a puzzle game. You're trying to figure out the puzzle of like how to beat these people.
Yeah.
And they all have their own like little quirks and like you have to like study them and figure out like the best way to like approach each fight until like you said, you're untouchable.
Yep.
So I've always loved the Punch-Out games for that. It's just like it really is. It's a puzzle game.
Yeah, it is one of the best.
Nice. That's a great one. I didn't have that on my list, but totally deserved.
Nice.
Okay, we're in the 70s. Slowly getting through this. By the way, this is going to be a long episode. I should have said that at the beginning.
That's really long.
I love it.
I gotta make dinner soon.
No, you're not. Okay, number 79. I have Star Fox 64.
What?
Which, whoa. You don't love
whatever.
Star Fox?
No, I've
Man,
never been a fan of that series.
Oh, how dare you? You gonna veto this?
No, I'll let you have it at 79. That's fine.
Yeah. So Star Fox 64, first, like, the Star Fox universe I've always found, like, really fascinating. I love, like, the different characters, and just the world that they live in. I think, like, Andros is, like, a super cool enemy to fight. There's, like, this interesting backstory with, like, Star Fox and his dad.
Yep.
And his dad, maybe being dead. And there's a little bit of mystery there. I love the branching paths in the N64. It was also one of the first games, especially for the N64, to have, like, voice acting,
Mm-hmm.
and I always just thought that was, like, at the time I thought that was pretty amazing.
Voice acting, but it also introduced the most annoying character. Fox!
Yo, you leave Slippy alone.
Oh God, Slippy,
but
let you die.
I love Falco. Falco always had, like, attitude.
Falco's
like,
cool.
I don't know.
He's like the Vegeta
I mean,
of Star Fox.
Yeah. And it's a short game, but like I said, you have different branching paths, and you can, like, you have your ship, you have, like, a tank, and, like, it's a cool game. I've always loved Star Fox 64. It's got a special place in my heart.
I'm glad it does for you. That's nice. 78. Sticking on the NES, Mega Man 2. Maybe should be higher on your list, but I got it at 79.
Way higher on my list. Way higher.
Nah, it's good right where it's at. Mega Man 2, such a great game, great bosses, one of the best soundtracks, or one of the best tracks when you beat up the first Dr. Wily stage. I don't think I need to say much more. Mega Man 2 it is kind of, it might, some people like 3, some people like 4. To me, it's the best NES Mega Man game. I think it has some of the most memorable levels, and really just fun boss fights. Great soundtrack. Fighting Dr. Wily, going through his levels, really fun. Fighting a random dragon, robot dragon. It's kind of ridiculous. Doesn't really belong in that world, but it's like, whatever. This is what we're doing now. We're fighting a robot dragon. I'm down with it.
Right.
Yeah, I really like it. I think going now, like, looking back at them though, I have it high because I think the Mega Man games are fantastic for their time, but looking back on them, they're very simple, very simplistic games. Very interesting platformers that you're shooting, but essentially it's a platformer. A simple one at that, though. There's not, I don't, I'm not saying this is disrespect at all. I don't think there's much, like, there's not much to it. It's very simplistic. You have specific powers that are good against specific bosses, but other than that, you're trying to traverse these worlds in the most efficient way possible while dodging enemies that are just infinite, But it's still fun and a great soundtrack. That's why I think it should be at 78.
All right. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
I need to move some stuff around here, but I'll figure it out. So next on my list, I went ahead and stuck in for 77 Portal. The Portal game.
Never played Portal.
You're missing out, man. So it's like an FPS puzzle game essentially.
Yeah.
And once again, that there just isn't too many games like Portal and Portal 2, and I almost put Portal 2 on here, and it's definitely the better game out of the two. But I think the just at the time it was like a very special game. Came on the orange box with, like, Team Fortress 2 and Half-Life. I can't remember the Chapter 1 or whatever it is.
Right.
And it's just, like, a very interesting game. I thought it was very clever. The writing is really good in that game. The ending's fantastic. I love everything about Portal. So definitely feel like it needed to be on here. So.
Yeah, I've only ever heard good things about Portal. 76, right?
76.
76. PS2. one of the best PS2 games ever made, Kingdom Hearts.
No.
I knew you weren't going to like it.
Oh, my goodness.
You cannot argue that the first Kingdom Hearts game, I don't think about it now. Don't think about the millions of sequels. Just think about that first one by itself. We're talking about collaborations and crossovers earlier. This is another one that doesn't make any sense. A Final Fantasy crossing over with Disney. But man, did they do it right in that very first game. Because it is a wonderful action RPG that takes you through really colorful, fun worlds because it's all Disney themed. You know, playing alongside Disney characters, you can swap out Disney or Donald or Goofy for whoever that character of the world is. You know, Hercules, Jack Skellington, whoever. You can swap them in and out. But very fun gameplay. Great action RPG. You know, leveling up your equipment in that game, getting new keyblades. The story is still kind of weird, but it's simple enough to understand it. You're like, okay, gotta stop the Disney villains from unlocking Kingdom Hearts. Gotta save the princesses. Got it. That's it. We don't need to go into much further detail. In the other games, it doesn't make any damn sense. You don't know what's going on or who's doing what or half of the characters' names. But in the first one, it's laid out pretty simply. It's like, all right, Sora, gotta save Kairi. She's a Disney princess. She's the Final Fantasy princess. You gotta save the princesses. Right. You gotta save them. That's it. It's very simple. It's like, all right, I got it. You're fighting these cool villains called the Heartless. You have really interesting boss fights. You know, it gets really dark and kind of ominous. Very weird. You know, some of the dialogue is really weird. Somehow King Mickey is involved with all this. He's got a Keyblade. It's silly. It doesn't make any sense, but it's really fun gameplay. It's fun to go back and forth through the worlds, kind of like Metroidvania style. You're going back and forth between worlds to get certain items to better equip yourself with all your equipment. Because I think you get like 3, if I'm not mistaken, 3 accessories when you're playing through the game. But yeah, it's really fun. Great soundtrack. Has one of the greatest songs in a video game ever. Simple and Clean by Utadu Hikaru. Sorry. Just that first one though. Everything else after that is it's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. It gets way too weird. No one understands that story. I defy anyone to tell me in less than like an hour of the story of Kingdom Hearts the series. But that first one is simple enough. The gameplay is really good, and it is the first crossover of Disney with Final Fantasy, which again doesn't make any damn sense. It shouldn't make any sense. And it still doesn't really make sense when you play it, but it's really fun. And that's what's important here. And I spent a lot of hours playing that game because it was so much fun.
I would veto it out of anger, but man, there's some people that love that series and that first game in particular.
That's what I'm saying.
It's just like it's special in the way that like the fact that we're able to do this, like this is another crossover game where it's just like the fact that it exists and it's even remotely good is, you know, it's a feat in and of itself. You know, Disney is extremely protective with their franchises, and the fact they were able to do this is like really impressive. And to make like a good game with a good story on top is like pretty darn impressive. So, you know, I think it deserves to be on the list.
And the Sephiroth fight is very good. It's so much fun.
All right, so number 75, and I have a feeling this is higher on your list, but I feel like this feels right to me at 75. I've got, for the PS4, Marvel Spider-Man.
That high? Or that low, or however, depending on how you look at it?
I would call it low. You know, I think it's a fantastic game.
Dude. I don't want to hear it. Shut up. 75?
Yeah. I mean, I think that game's really good, but, you know, in a lot of ways, it took like the Arkham fighting style and just kind of, you know, they used that and then added some web slinging to it. I don't think it's doing anything like new, but they took that game and did some amazing stuff with it. So I wanted to at least make sure it made it on here somewhere.
It was definitely on my list, but a lot higher. That game, I defy you to tell me another open world game that makes you not want to fast travel. There's no other one. There's no other open world game where you feel it is a struggle to travel in that game. Because you can fast travel in that game, but I don't think anybody does.
I've always liked fast traveling in Arkham City.
Oh yeah.
I mean, not fast, or just traveling around in Arkham City.
Really?
Oh yeah,
I don't. It's
you
so
just grapple hooking, your web sling.
It's so
I mean,
slow.
not web. You're flying. I don't know.
It's
Loved
so
it.
slow. It's fun, but it's slow. Ugh, whatever. That's fine. I gotta alter some things. Yeah. Let's see.
But I love that game, and the
I do
web
too.
slinging is amazing. But yeah, it could maybe be higher. But I've got like so many other like great games on my list that like,
yeah.
man, I didn't know where else to put this.
Everyone's got great games on their list. That's the point of this. All right, let me just move this to here, and then let me adjust. I gotta think of something to put there. I'll worry about that later. All right, next game. 70, what's 3? 74?
74.
74. 74 is, I'm gonna put a game that probably not a lot of people know about. Super Mario Land 3, or otherwise known as Wario Land for the Game Boy. Super Mario.
Interesting choice.
The Super Mario Land series was always really fun. Super Mario Land 1 and 2, you're playing as Mario, obviously. And Super Mario Land 2, you fight Wario. He's the bad guy. But then in 3, they flip the script. You play as Wario. And it's a completely different game style. And I love the logic behind it. Whereas Mario games, especially back then, you know, the 2D Marios, they're all about speed. They're all about traversal. They're all about getting past obstacles. But not using brute force. Wario is the exact opposite of that, where you're just this big meatball of a man, and you're just running and charging into walls, and you can't really die in that game. You can get squished, you can get pushed around, but you can't really die, and you can charge into walls and break walls, and it's all about hunting treasure and getting rich, basically. And I love it just because it's like the opposite Mario game that we never got. And you play as Wario. And I think that's the first, and I don't know how many times you've played as Wario after that game in a full game, like in an adventure. But
There's that one for the GameCube.
That's what I mean. Like, there's not many. Like, I don't know how many more there are outside of the original Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3. But I loved it just because you flip the script where you're not Mario, you're Wario, and you're just busting through walls, finding treasure, and collecting as much treasure as possible, being a greedy little man. And it's really fun being able to move in that game without having to, you know, it's got the Mario mindset, but without having to worry about, you know, death traps and Goombas and, you know, stuff like that typically will adverse your traversal. This one, you're just charging around with like your arm and charging at things, and it's really fun. And I love playing as Wario because he's really funny looking.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's a really good Game Boy game.
Yeah, and man, some of those Mario Land games, like Mario Land 2, is also like a pretty great game.
It is.
I really like that one.
Me too.
All right, so I'm like looking at my list. I'm like, I'm gonna shift this one down a little bit, even though I think it is fan-frickin-tastic. So, number 73, I'm gonna put Mario Kart 64.
All right.
And I was thinking about the Mario Karts, and I think you can make an argument for something like another Mario Kart making it onto this list higher up. But I think Mario Kart 64 is like just a great example of like an early multiplayer game for 4 people in a 3D environment that's just like really dang good. I mean, that's a really, really good game. Either within the courses, which all the courses are like a lot of fun and interesting, to like the battle mode. I mean, I think that's just, man, Mario Kart 64. I feel like it doesn't need too much explanation, but
no, I mean,
I think it totally deserves to be on this list somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like not the birth of the kart genre, but definitely like the catalyst of it. Super Mario Kart obviously came first, but Mario Kart 64 kind of brought in an entirely new like game design that a lot of people replicated. Especially in the 3D aspect, yeah. Not bad. All right, I go with you on that. Okay. This is, what number are we at? 73?
72.
72. 72, I've got the OG 2005 PlayStation 2 God of War.
Ooh.
The original God of War game, the birth of just one of Sony's most precious IPs. Kind of like I don't want to say it started the hack and slash movement. It didn't. But talk about a game that got replicated in terms of the hack and slash gameplay. It's very much a lot of games afterward came out that were just like it. But this one, the OG it's great. I mean, you're just an angry Spartan running around murdering everything in Greek mythology. And it is fun. It is so much fun. And when you beat that game, you get like special little outfits to replay the game in. I don't remember if it was God of War 1 or 2, but you get to play as the Cod of War, where you're just in a fish costume, which is really fun and silly. But hey, man, like it birthed something for Santa Monica Studios that is still relevant to this day. And I remember playing that game for the first time. It was at a buddy of mine's place back when I was a kid, Brian. He rented that game at the Hollywood Video that was like around the corner from where we lived. And I watched him play, and I was like, oh my god, this is a game. And like it spoke to our like preteen adolescence of like, oh my god, we're men. You're just running around, this big beefy dude just slashing things.
Yeah.
You get to have these sex mini games that are ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. But it was just so much fun. And I think, it's in that time period, it like spoke to not just a lot of young adult males, but also like preteen males are just like, we're the alpha male God of War, Kratos, like just killing things. It's so silly and looking back on it. But man, what a fun game. And with interesting little puzzles throughout the game and really cool powers as well. Like I loved, you get like the Poseidon's Fury, I think is what it's called, where you get lightning. And then I think it's called the Army of Hades is one of my favorite ones, where you're just, you got these demonic spirits flying around you. And a really great boss fight when you fight Ares at the end. He had like 3 different versions. I think he had 3 different levels to fight him. But man, what a great boss fight. What a great game. And Kratos is still relevant to this day. Love that game.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Next to my list, I kind of went back and forth on this one a little bit where it should be. So I think it's a really good game, but I don't think it's set the world on fire like some of the other games in this particular series. So I have at 71 Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I like Mario Odyssey. I don't think it's I don't know. I don't want to say it's overrated. But
because I don't think it is. It's like I don't hear too many people talking about this game anymore. But when I was like kind of going through my list of games, like I kept kind of coming back to that one. It's like, man, I really enjoyed my time with it, and I really like the end of that game, and a couple of the last like really big fights. I don't want to spoil one fight in particular towards the end of that game. It's like second to last boss, but I thought like a lot of the boss fights were really cool in that game, and the worlds were really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just I liked Cappy a lot. I like being able to like take over a T-Rex, and
I love that they had a Shiba.
The Shiba in it wearing a hat, which is great. And like New Donk City was like really cool to like go around, and a lot of the nostalgia they kind of threw into that game is like really, really cool, from like some of the levels to like the music and stuff. I really loved that game, but I wanted to stick it somewhere, but maybe not too high on the list.
That's fair. That's very fair. Sorry, I'm just moving things around because I also had Mario Odyssey on my list.
Yeah.
Now I gotta shift things.
All right, you have number 70.
Okay, number 70. I know you had a rule earlier, but screw you, I'm gonna stick to it. Number 70. Pokemon Gold/Silver.
Ooh.
For the Game Boy or Game Boy Color.
All right.
Why this game is so good and is the best after the first generation ones was because not only did you get to play in the Johto region, you have an all new set of Pokemon that you can get, but once you beat the Johto region, you go and you basically replay the first game, and you get to go through Kanto. So it's almost like you have two adventures in one, and you get to collect all the Pokemon from the first one, along with all the Pokemon from the Johto region, and then at the end you battle Red, which is like the original character, which to this day, like, I think that was the first game where it felt like a real sequel, because you're in a new place, a new environment with new things. You're not the same character, so it makes sense that you don't have the same stuff from the previous game. But once you're done with this new area, you get to re-explore the area you were just in the old game. Albeit maybe a couple years later, or I'm not sure the time difference between the two. But I love that. That is one of the that is the greatest aspect of those games, is the being able to go through the Kanto region right after the new and improved Johto region, and it made that game so much more fun, because then you're just like, oh my god, I can get the like original starters and I can play through the original game, and it's I have a red Gyarados at the same time I'm doing this all with. So the introduction of shiny Pokemon is also super cool. I to this day, my very first shiny Pokemon that I caught was a golden Caterpie, and it eventually became a pink Butterfree, which I loved so much. And having the red Gyarados was just so cool. It was like, oh my god, it's Gyarados, but he's red and it's badass. I loved Gold and Silver.
Yeah,
I loved being able to play through the Kanto region again the second time with a whole new set of Pokemon, and being able to fight Red at the end of like, he's like the ultimate boss, because he's like, oh my god, that's me from the first game, but he's so much better. I love that. I loved Gold and Silver.
right.
It is one of my favorite sequels to a game ever.
Nice. Well, I had later in my list, they had Pokemon Yellow. I pulled that out because I can't remember if I mentioned the rules, but I'm basically, to keep this list interesting, I'm trying to I want to make it so we don't have too many like very, very, so you could put like sequels in, but like they need to feel very different, like Super Mario Brothers and then Super Mario Brothers 3, very, very different games.
Yeah.
So I'm pulling Pokemon Yellow out of mine, and I'm slipping in a brand new thing off my list into the next slot. And I really thought about this one, like, should it be on this list or not? And I think it should. Here it is, number 69. And
Nice.
I think that's perfect for this boy right here. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2.
Nice. Very nice.
That game
It's one of my alternates.
Dude, that game is dope. And it's like, that game does not deserve to be as good as it is.
No, it does not.
That's one of those games, like, when that game came out, I know I keep saying this, but like, it set the world on fire. Like, everybody like got way into like
action sports.
Like, people got way into skateboarding.
Yeah.
Like, Tech Decks came out around the same time, and
everyone started paying attention to the X Games after that.
Yeah, X Games, and and there were like all these games that came out, like a BMX one and stuff that tried to like do the same thing, but like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, I think, was like the perfect sweet spot for that series.
Yeah.
The music was awesome, and it just felt so good to like go around that world and just skateboard.
Do you get to play a Spider-Man in that one?
I think that was the third.
Is that third?
Game. There was one of them where you could play as Solid Snake, and I think that one was 2.
Was that 2?
And then I think number 3 was Spider-Man. I could be wrong on that, but
there's another one you get to play as, like, I think Darth Vader or Darth Maul. I forget.
Yeah.
But that's another aspect about that game, that series, that I love, is like playing as, they throw in these random characters, which I loved.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It deserves to be up there. It right, spiked a movement. 100%.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if you had played that game. I thought you were gonna be like, "What? Get that off the list."
No. I think everyone our age has played that game. To be honest, like, it's one of those games that like everyone's touched at least once.
Yeah, and seriously, even if you didn't like skateboarding, you liked that game.
Yeah, very true.
That game is awesome.
All right. It's funny that you say that. Even if you didn't like skateboarding, you love this game, because my next game is a very similar mindset. This is 68. Even if you don't love football, you love NFL Blitz.
Oh,
NFL Blitz. It's my favorite sports game of all time. It's one of the It's the best football game ever made. I don't care what you say. It is the best football game ever made because it's ridiculous. You do suplexes, you clothesline people. It's such a fun arcade game to just, it doesn't matter what team you pick. You're just running around, and the most fun thing to do is tackle people, and then when the play is over, you tackle more people. And it is so much fun. And the commentator is the funniest in a game where he's like, he's an animal. Where you're tackling even after the whistle when you jump on somebody, he's like, that's just inappropriate. It's so funny. It's such a fun game. Being on fire in that game is super great. Scoring touchdowns in that game is so much fun because even after you score a touchdown, you can still get tackled while you're celebrating. It is the most fun football game ever made. It is such an arcadey game because it's not really a football game. It's just an arcadey game, and it's silly, it's ridiculous, and it's so much fun. And it's my favorite sports game ever made. I know a lot of people love NHL 94, I think is the popular one.
Yeah.
NFL Blitz, even over NBA Jam. I love NFL Blitz.
Yeah, that's I love NFL Blitz. Should it be on the top 100 though? That's a tough call.
Tell me a better arcadey sports game. NBA Jam,
probably NBA Jam.
But NFL Blitz NFL Blitz for the tackle factor. After a play is done, you can keep tackling people.
Ooh.
You want to try and veto it? Go ahead, but I love NFL Blitz.
That's a tough call.
See, if it's that tough, then it's a no.
It's a tough call. You know what? I think I'm going for the veto. I'm gonna put NBA Jam in its place.
Oh, God. Yeah, you could swap. You just swap one for the other. It's the same thing. It's just football or basketball. Because NFL Blitz, you also get all the ridiculous big head mode, all those weird arcade. They're both arcade games. You know, honestly,
all right, we'll leave it.
I won't feel bad if you really want NBA Jam in there because to me they're kind of the same. You can just swap them in and out. It's just, do you like tackling or do you like jumping with lightning balls and like being on fire and stuff? Yeah,
I think like, you know, NBA Jam really like set the tone for like an arcade sports game, you know?
Yeah.
And I think like, yeah, NBA Jam, it's pretty rad. I'm going to go for Blitz. I'm going NBA Jam on that.
All right.
Which means you get number 67 as well.
All right, 67. Next game I have
veto.
Next game I had Dead Space. The original Dead Space.
Nice. I was gonna put it on my list, but I thought you would have it, so I left it off.
It is one of my favorite horror games. It is one of my favorite action horror games. It is such an appropriate Alien game that's not called Alien. It is weird. It is creepy. It introduced a mechanic that was so interesting where it's like, yeah, normally headshots do the job. Not in this game. You don't want to do that because it'll just make things worse. Mm-hmm. They're coming out with the remake of it, which looks awesome. I love it because you're still the silent protagonist in that game, and you're just trying to make your way through this creepy space station. And what makes it worse is, you know, in space, it's like you're alone and there's nowhere to run. You know, you can't go anywhere. You're stuck on this ship, and the mythology of that series gets really weird. But in that first one, man, it is so appropriately scary and appropriately fun at the same time. You know, I'm not a big fan of the spooky horror games.
Yeah. But
that one did it right, where it's like, yeah, it's creepy, but you also feel like you're in control, and it feels like you can survive. And man, that game is one of my favorite horror action games of all time, for sure. Like, it's up there with Resident Evil, you know, all the Resident Evil games. It's up there with it.
Faux show. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good one. Okay, so next on my list, personally, I would like to see this game go higher on the list, but I feel like here you won't veto it.
Veto.
So I'd like to put in for number 66, Wolfenstein, The New Colossus. So this game...
That's fine.
How dare you, sir? Wolfenstein. So I was kind of going back and forth on both The New Order and The New Colossus, and obviously these are like the new games by Machine Games, and I really think they took that franchise and just took it to like a next level and amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that game doesn't like that game shouldn't be as good as it is for a
Yeah.
game that's supposed to be about just like shooting Nazis. Like they gave that game so much like love and attention. It's like all the characters are fascinating. The world is like really interesting to kind of walk around and read like newspapers and how the world kind of ended up in the way
Yeah.
that it did. And, you really just like, man, you get so mad at those Nazis. And you're like, oh man, you
Yeah.
jerks.
The lore in that game is fantastic. It's got tremendous lore. And it's also got one of my favorite moments in a video game ever. Pregnant woman with machine guns.
Oh, 100%, dude.
Yeah,
And I mean, and the gunplay in that game is top notch, fantastic. I don't think I've ever played a game where the gunplay feels as good. I mean, you're just going around just mowing people down with like machine guns and like laser guns.
I agree.
You have like an axe you could just chop people up with.
The dual wielding aspect of it it's like it's done perfectly. Yeah, it feels so good to run around that game shooting.
Yeah, so yeah, I gotta give it to New Colossus.
That's
like
fair.
That game is so good. The twist in that game is incredible. Like everything is. Oh man, I love that game.
It is.
I love it so much. So I wanted to get it on this list without you vetoing it.
That's fair. No,
so
I do love that game, and I think it's appropriate where it's at.
Yeah, it's man, it's so good.
All right. Next 65. Uncharted 2. Nathan Drake's greatest adventure. Uncharted 2. I know a lot of people, I think you prefer Uncharted 3 over it. A lot of people love Uncharted 4, and I do too. It's a fantastic next gen game compared to the PS3 ones. Uncharted 2 I love because personally for me, like I got that game around the same time that I got my wisdom teeth removed. And so I was hopped up on painkillers because I got all my wisdom teeth removed at the same time. And Uncharted 2 had just come out, and like that was my new game. And so being stuck in my room, not being able to really eat or talk, and I played, and Uncharted 2 like took me out of that and took me on an adventure. I love that game. It's gorgeous. It's got one of my favorite set pieces in a game with the train. It's got a incredible opening, one of the best openings to a game of all time. Being in that snow, it is, it's a cover shooter that you can play throughout that game without getting touched. You can speed run that game and try and get as many people as you can as possible, like only headshots. It is so much fun. It's a beautiful game, great story, wonderful cast, great characters, awesome set pieces, just a fantastic adventure. And I miss games like that, to be honest. I really do. Like I wish a game like that. I'm excited for whatever their next Uncharted adventure is, if there's going to be one, just because I miss that game.
It's a popcorn flick.
It is
in a video game. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's great to be along for the ride, and it really is. Just even if it weren't for me playing that game and I was sitting there watching it, I'd have no problem watching it being played, because that game is just an adventure to spectate.
And I actually, because I had Uncharted 2 way higher on my list, and I was going back and forth between that and between 2 and 3, and I like 3 like ever so slightly more, but 2 blew my frickin' mind when that game came out.
Yeah.
Like the first level with the train is just, I mean, you could make the argument that's the best like opening in a video game ever.
Yeah.
It's just really,
it's extremely
really
cinematic and beautiful to watch, and it's so much fun to play through.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I would have put it higher, but 65 still, it's on the list, so
yes.
I'm happy. So I had to take Uncharted 2 out, and then I put in a game right here for 64 that I think needs to be on this list somewhere. It's a real silly game, but The Sims.
Sims?
The Sims. Like this, it's a game that
I've never been a Sims fan.
If you're into it, but if you're into it, you're really into it. And I used to put a ton of time into The Sims, and I mean, it's there's not too many games like that, where you're building a house and then you can live in it, and once you start adding it, like once you start putting the cheat codes in, you're building like mansions and stuff. It's like, it's just like it's such a cool game that to this day, I mean, it still has like a huge audience. And I haven't played them in a minute now, but I would make the argument that I bet like the Sims 2 still hold up to this day, and you could have a lot of fun with it and put thousands of hours in if you wanted to. And I used to like build houses and figure out like what I wanted my dream house to be like. And I've always loved like interior design and architecture and stuff. And it's a really interesting game. There's not too many games like it. So I felt like it should be on here somewhere.
Sure. I'm not a fan of Sims. Okay, next up, 63.
Yeah.
63. Gonna go with the RE2 remake.
Ooh, that was the one. I was debating between that and The Sims.
Dude, come on.
I thought you would probably have.
You're damn right I would.
Probably have RE2 remake.
I'm not gonna have it over this. I'm not gonna have that instead of The Sims. Come on, man. RE2 remake, the best remake they've done so far. I like it more than 3. It's playing as Leon and Claire, retelling that adventure in a modern way with modern controls and graphics. It is a fantastic adventure to go through. All the collectibles in that game are great. Trying to run through that game as fast as you can is a really fun challenge. Exploring the police department is fun and creepy, even though it doesn't make any sense. And they explain of like, this used to be an art museum. It's like, that still doesn't explain why there's so much weird stuff in here, but sure, let's go with that. Having Mr. X follow you around is scary, but it's the only real scary thing in that game that makes me feel on edge. But once that part's done with, you're like, okay, I can breathe again. This is fun again. Man, it's a great remake. It's one of the best remakes ever done. And I wish they had brought Matthew Mercer back as Leon. That's the only thing that bugged me about it. But still being able to play as Leon again, I miss playing as Leon. I miss It's what made RE4 so great. That's why he's my favorite. And it was nice to play as him again in RE2. Love that game. Love unlocking all the weapons. Doing it's Metroidvania, running back and forth, trying to unlock everything. And then once you get all your weapons, man, that game it's so much fun to play through when you have everything unlocked. So RE2 remake. Right. Love it.
One of the best remakes of all time.
Yeah.
All right. So once again, this game would be much higher on my list, but I don't want to get it vetoed. So I'm putting it here at 62, Towerfall. So this game is...
It's good. It's good.
Yeah, dude. Towerfall is probably a top 20 game for me.
Towerfall's good, for sure.
It's incredible.
It's a great arcade game.
I absolutely love the, just the combat in that game, and once you get on the crazy difficult levels and you're trying to like perfect it, it gets insane. And to this day, I play that game all the time still. Like I'll pop it in and just play like a few rounds. It's one of the few games that I go back to, every couple months and play, at least an hour of.
Yeah,
like
it's great.
So I needed to get it on this list without it getting vetoed. So, 62, man. But man, what a great game. Love it.
All right. 61. I know you're gonna love this. Sonic Adventure 2 Battle.
Oh,
here's why. Specifically 3 things about that game that makes it a top 100 game for me. Just 3 things. The first Sonic level, City Escape. I think it's the 3rd Sonic level called Metal Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
And the Chow in that game. The Chow in that game is the Chow mini games, the Chow raising, like just the Chow garden aspect is a better game than the Sonic game as a whole. It is really fun to raise your Chow. It is really fun to race them and to have them fight. The mini games they do, raising your Chow, being able to link it up to your Game Boy Advance and transfer Chow. That part's great. It proves why Tamagotchi was so successful. because it's really fun to do, and it's really fun to raise them. Other than that, the City Escape level and the Metal Harbor level are the only Sonic levels in history where you feel like Sonic, where you feel fast, you feel like you can't be stopped. You can beat them in like a minute, so you feel speed, like it actually feels like Sonic. That's it. It's just those two levels and the Chow Garden are what make that game so great, because I spent hours, and I mean hours, playing them. And I'm talking about the GameCube version over the Dreamcast version, because the GameCube was a little smoother. The Dreamcast version had a little better lighting effects. Like they were able to portray shadows better, whereas GameCube was a little more flat. But in terms of the gameplay, like GameCube was a little smoother. So I'm going with that over it, just because those two levels, those two Sonic levels only, I think are deserving, because it shows you what a Sonic game should be.
Sure.
And they have yet to do it again.
Part of me really wanted to veto it for Sonic Adventure 2 for the Dreamcast, but you made a good argument for Battle, so I'll let it be.
There you go.
All right. That's going to be the only Sonic game on this list. I'll tell you that much. Anything else getting
just wait till we get to the top 15, baby.
Oh, boy. Okay. So, number 60. Let's see what I got here. Okay. I think this is a good spot for this one. I could see somebody making an argument for it higher, but I think this is like a pretty solid spot. Wii Sports.
That's deserving. I went back and forth on whether I want that on my list or not.
Yeah, that's something where it's just like, I mean, that game, once again, like it kind of took over the world there for a minute.
One of the best launch games.
Yeah, 100%. I would argue that and Tetris are like two of the best, because it's something where like anybody could kind of pick it up and play. Your grandma could just like, bowl with you, That spoke
to the popularity of the Wii. Like, you found that literally everywhere. Old people, young people, like lobbies of like a dentist office,
old folks
home. Like, everyone had the Wii and everyone played Wii Sports.
Yeah, 100%. So it's right up there with like Wii Sports and the Wii. It really is like Tetris and the Game Boy.
It's
like they go hand in hand in a lot of ways.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. 59, right? We're in the 50s now? 59?
We're in the 50s.
N64, Pokemon Stadium.
Dang, that's a great one.
It is. Pokemon Stadium, the first 3D Pokemon game, right? Or did Pokemon Snap come before that? I don't remember.
Pokemon Snap came first, I believe.
Okay. Still, the first battling 3D Pokemon game. Love that you could link up your Game Boy to it. You could transfer your Pokemon from your Game Boy to Pokemon Stadium. That way you could have like custom lineups in Pokemon Stadium. Tons of great mini games. I still love the sushi mini game with Lickitung.
The sushi one is great.
Yeah, it's so much fun. It's kind of got that Kirby Superstar kind of like, here's a bunch of different things you can do.
Mm-hmm.
You can go through the Elite Eight. You can just battle. You've got mini games. It's a great Pokemon game, because even if you didn't transfer your Pokemon from Game Boy to it, they still gave you, here's all the level 50s and here's all the level 100s, and it just shows how much fun a Pokemon game could be without all the stress of like the RPG elements. If you take that aside and you just want to battle, it has that for you. Plus, you could play your Pokemon game on the big screen if you linked up your Game Boy, with the I forget what it was called, but it plugged into the back of the N64 controller, the Game Boy adapter. And you just pop in your game and you can play Pokemon on on your CRT, which was awesome. The first time I saw that, I was like, oh my God, this is the future. Like, you can play Game Boy on a TV. So
yeah, I mean, it was pretty darn impressive at the time. And man, me and my friends used to play that a lot.
Same.
We just thought the tech was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it was. For the time, it was amazing. I love Pokemon Stadium. I still have it.
Yeah. I think that's a great 59.
Yeah.
Okay, 58. Once again, I think this is a game that could be higher, but this series in particular, it's like I really like it, but it's not like in a top 20 for me. I'm gonna put on here Metroid Prime.
That's fair.
Yeah, so
That's fair.
Metroid Prime, they took the Metroid series and went, and made it an FPS, which, man, Retro just crushed it with being able to,
Yeah.
Take a Metroid game and do that. But the world is just like lonely and desolate, and like it's kind of weird, and you're trying to like, the storytelling is through it's environmental storytelling. It doesn't like really hold your hand, but I thought the gameplay was great. Shooting felt good, and at the time, they're really like, that was a beautiful, beautiful game at the time.
I love the look of it, like the HUD almost of like the visor.
Yeah,
it felt like Iron Man-y. You know what I mean? Like it was really cool. Like it felt like high tech. Like, oh my god, I'm like, I am Samus. Like this is what it would feel like to be in a really cool suit.
Yeah,
I do love that aspect of it. No, it's a good game. Great game.
Yeah.
57 or 58?
57.
57. I got one of your favorites that's probably higher on your list, but I'm putting it here anyway. Turtles in Time.
Dang.
TMNT4. Turtles in Time.
Dude, Turtles in Time is my jam.
Probably the best beat 'em up ever made. I would argue. I know the Simpsons game's also really good up there. So is the X-Men game. But Turtles in Time, it's just different because you've got all the great aspects of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles all in one game. You're traveling through time. You've got different types of levels. You've got regular beat 'em up levels, and then you've got like those skatey levels where you're like in the sewer and you're just trying to dodge stuff. Eating pizza from enemies that drop pizza. All the turtles have like their own special, like unique ability that's really fun and unique to their weapons. And just a really solid, perfectly executed beat 'em up. And when you have a really good beat 'em up that's like perfect on every level, it just sings. And that's what that game does. That Turtles in Time, it is, pardon the pun, it's timeless. It doesn't matter like at one point you play that game in the future, that game will always be good.
Word. That's a good one. Man, I love Turtles in Time.
Yeah.
To this day, I regret not buying the arcade cabinet. To this day.
Oh man. That'd be so cool.
Dude. Okay. So I've been going back and forth on like the next one on my list here. But I'm gonna have to give it to Grand Theft Auto Vice City. So
over San Andreas?
Definitely over San Andreas. So it's definitely like,
all right.
So you could kind of make the argument for any of those PS2 GTA games. I was kind of deciding whether or not I wanted to go with GTA 3 or Vice City, and I went with Vice City just because I love the world itself. Like 1980s Miami is just like fantastic. It's just like these bright colors. The music on the radio is incredible.
Yeah.
And you're just walking around like a white suit and just mowing
Miami
people
Vice,
down with like
baby.
machine guns. Yeah, I mean it's so good. And I mean GTA 3 was like mind blowing at the time, and I think they took everything GTA 3 did right, and they just like improved upon it to make Vice City.
Yeah.
And you can make the same argument with San Andreas. They really just like threw the kitchen sink at it at that point. Where like, let's make the biggest world we ever made and do all this stuff. But I think Vice City was like a really, really great follow up to GTA 3.
Fair. That's fair. I do love the Miami Vice like set. The colors and the aspect of that is really, it's fun.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for, that era.
80s Miami vibes.
Oh yeah, it's just great.
It's because you love pink.
Yeah, I mean that's probably part of it. But like, I mean, the music and just like, it's just perfect for like a kind of a mob story. Just like cocaine fueled dude just running around just like mowing people down Scarface style. It's ridiculous.
No, it is fun. All right, not bad. Okay, 50. Where were we at?
55.
55. I got N64 Banjo-Tooie.
Ooh,
I picked
a nice one.
I went with Banjo-Tooie over Kazooie for a couple things. One, it's a little bit darker. It starts out with the death of, I think his name's Boggles or the Goggles, whatever that guy's name is, the mole or whatever. It starts with the death of him. which is really just like, wow, he died right in front of you. Like, oh man, he's dead. Gruntilda's a skeleton instead of like having her witch body. You know, Kazooie turns into a dragon, which I loved. I thought that was the coolest thing. I was like, oh my god, she's a dragon now. I love that aspect. And the different egg sets that you get in that game are great. Like grenade eggs. I love the grenade eggs in that game. The ice eggs. You know, the multiplayer aspect of it was way more fun than it should have been. It's just GoldenEye, but with Kazooie and shooting eggs at people.
Sure.
Which I loved. You know, that was, a lot of people talk about GoldenEye FPS multiplayer. I'm like, no. Banjo-Tooie. Try that one. All right, GoldenEye, you don't carry a bird that shoots grenades. You do in Banjo-Tooie, though. I love that part of it. And I like traversing the world of Banjo-Tooie a little bit more than Banjo-Kazooie. You know, they streamlined a couple things of collecting stuff, made it a little easier, made it a little more streamlined. Man, it's again, you talk about sequels improving on the original game. That's what Banjo-Tooie did. And not to say that Banjo-Kazooie is anything less, because it's fantastic in its own right. You know, they're both like the definition of what a great N64 game was. You know, a perfect open world 3D platformer. And that's what those are.
Nice. That's a good one. Okay. So this next one, man, I love Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie.
Yeah. They're great.
Okay, so 54. This is when we're almost at 50 and it's about to get hard. It's like, we're really coming up on like I think some fights are gonna.
I don't think we've mentioned too many like Marios or Zeldas.
Yeah. They're sitting on my list.
Yep.
I've been kind of like pushing them around a little bit as we go. 'Cause it's like, ooh boy, like where does some of this stuff go, man? And I think this would be like a top 20 game for me, but I'm going to stick it right here just because I'm running out of like spots to stick some of this stuff. But I some of this stuff I need to get on this list higher. I need to fight for them. So I'm going to stick this one at 54, Earthbound. So to me,
all right,
Earthbound is fine. Like Earthbound, I think is, in my opinion, the best like JRPG ever made. I mean, I love the world. I love the characters. I love some of the mechanics in that game. Like the fact that you're a kid and one of the things that you have to do in that game is like you have to, because you're trying to save the world, but at the same time you're a kid. So you get really lonely. Mm-hmm. Like you get really sad that you're homesick and it affects you in battle.
Yeah.
That you're homesick. And so every once in a while you go and you find a phone and you call your dad who's like always at work.
Yeah.
And he'll like talk to you about stuff and make you feel a little better. And it's just like, wow. Like,
yeah. It hits a little deep.
Yeah. And it's just like, there's really not like, what other games are you homesick?
That's
you
true.
know?
That's
and
true.
It's like, it's just kooky and silly. I think it's super funny. And
I love that how much stuff you can name in it and how it affects things down the line, like your favorite food and stuff and like all that kind of stuff. I love that aspect. Yeah,
I love Earthbound, and I would stick it higher on this list if I could, but
sure,
had to go somewhere.
I feel you. We're getting to that point where things are going to get very tough.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay, this is 51 or 50?
53.
53. PS4, one of the best exclusives they ever had, Bloodborne. The best Soulsy game, in my opinion, the best Soulsy game ever made. If you love Lovecraft, you'll love this game because it is just Lovecraft plus Souls plus Victorian style England. It's gross to look at. There's lots of blood and like puke in that game. Everything's wet. It's just very uncomfortable. But man, the fighting in that game, the enemies that you fight, it truly makes you feel a sense of accomplishment when you defeat things in that game, because that game does not hold your hand at all. Like that, you are in the world, and the game's just like, all right, figure it out. Good luck. And I remember the first time I played that game, my friend Brian back home introduced me to it, and he loves it. And I remember playing it for the first time, and I'm like, I don't understand. What do I do? Who am I? Like, what's the point of this? What am I doing? And like, I played it for like an hour and I couldn't stand it because I was like, I don't understand any of this. Like, what are these things? Why am I doing what I'm doing? What is going on? And then as you play the game, it slowly like teaches you about the world and about the lore that's going on. And you're just like, and when you start to get it and it starts to click, it's totally different. Like, it's a completely different game.
Word.
And you upgrade you're upgrading your weapons and your armor throughout the game. And when you figure out what sets work against what enemies, it is fantastic. It is such a just brilliantly designed game. The map it's big, but it's small enough that you can traverse it and you can memorize it as you traverse the world. It's gorgeous to look at. Even though it's a gross game, it is beautiful to look at. Like the architecture in the game, it's these huge buildings with doors that don't make any sense because you're humans. So you're like, why is there a 30-foot door to this chapel? But it doesn't matter because it's just gorgeous to look at. And the monsters are absolutely just grotesque, but you love it because you're just like, oh, that's so cool. And you've got these Lovecrafty beasts that you're fighting throughout the game. It is one of my favorite games that Sony's ever made. One of my favorite exclusives of all time. It is my favorite Soulsy game of all time. It is just a beautifully designed game. Like the game design on it's remarkable. It really is.
Word.
Love
All
Bloodborne.
Right. Okay, so I think that's a good one to add here. So 52. Once again, I would put this higher. This has become one of my like favorite games in the last 10 years. But I think here it won't get vetoed. So at 52, I want to put Returnal on here.
Wow.
That game is really, really, really good. And like I think I had it right around 25, I think. No, I probably had it a little higher, like 22-ish on my list of 50. But I felt like here is it's a safe spot for it to not get vetoed. It's man, that has just become an absolute favorite for me. It's I mean, and there's really not too much like it either. I mean, it's like a 3D bullet hell game, and you don't really see those at all. And man, I love that world and the weird story it's telling. I love the minute-to-minute gameplay. I really can't say enough good things about that game.
That's fair.
It's awesome.
I won't veto it. I know you speak highly of it all the time.
Yeah.
Next game for me, where are we at? 50?
51.
Oh, damn, I thought I had 50. 51, PS3, 360, Red Dead Redemption.
Nice.
I think it could easily go higher, but given the history of what we all love, I think it's a good spot. Red Dead I still like it more than the second one. I love the story of Red Dead Redemption. I love the gameplay. I love the setting. Best cowboy game. Just, you play through that game, and when you get to the end, it is heart-wrenching, and it is just like, wow, you put that controller down, you're just like, man.
Yeah.
What an adventure, what a story I just witnessed. It is just a beautifully made game, and it still looks good today when you play it. Just a fantastic cowboy game. I mean, I don't want to give anything away about it, but it is just a fantastic cowboy game. Playing as John Marston, you're just like, oof.
Yeah.
Man.
The ending literally, I laid down my controller and I just sat there for 20 minutes.
Yeah, you have to. You're just like, Jesus.
Yeah, it's what an incredible game. And I definitely had that higher on my list. But as long as it's on here, that game is so good though.
I mean, technically, I have it as number 25 on my list.
Yeah,
because we were doing 50.
Like I said, it's gonna get real tricky.
Yeah,
we're coming down to these games that are like masterclass games that need to go on here somewhere.
Yep.
Okay, so let's see here. So number 50, I have for me StarCraft, the original StarCraft. This game is once again, I love a good world. I love a fleshed out, fascinating world to kind of deep dive into. You could read books about the StarCraft universe, and the minute-to-minute gameplay is fantastic. there's really like when it comes to RTSs, I'd say they're few and far between as far as like really, really good ones.
Sure.
And man, StarCraft is up there. It's like to this day, people still play that game in like tournaments and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's, the gameplay holds up, and yeah, I really love the world of StarCraft, and I love the expansion Brood Wars. It's really freaking good, and yeah, me and my buddy Jason used to play that game all the time. I love StarCraft.
I will not argue that at all. I know it's beloved.
Yeah.
49 now.
Yeah,
we're under 50.
In the 40s. We're in the 40s.
Right.
It's gonna get real tough.
A lot of people consider this one their favorite games of all time. So I'm sorry it's so high up, but Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo. I mean, you want to talk about pushing a console to its limits with the size of a game, with how much is in the game, with how good that game looks, how creepy it is as well for a Super Nintendo game. You are talk about isolation in that game. You are alone, and I mean, it is a blueprint for a Metroidvania game, right? I mean, it's in the name, Metroid, but a fantastic game, a fantastic world to travel, great boss fights, great items that you get along the way. It is the definition of what a Super Nintendo could do. And there's not really much to say about Super Metroid. It is a damn near perfect game.
Yeah, I mean, I was having a hard time putting it on my list somewhere because it's like I mean, it's an absolutely stellar game.
Yeah.
And there are some people that would be like, that's my number one game of all time.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be mine. But it absolutely needs to be on this list.
100%.
So, yeah. Super Metroid, number 49. Okay. Here we go. 48. I have Mrs. Pac-Man.
That's fair. Ms. Pac-Man.
Ms. Pac-Man.
Yeah.
I said Mrs. Ms. Pac-Man.
Pac-Man with a bow.
And they like double the speed of that game.
Yep.
And to this day, I'll go to an arcade and I'll play the heck out of some Ms. Pac-Man. It's I would say out of all the old school like arcade games, I think that and Dig Dug are like specifically like Dig Dug 2 are just absolutely stellar games. And anybody, it's like Tetris. Anybody can figure out Pac-Man in minutes, seconds even, and you could get really good at that game pretty darn quick. And it just took everything Pac-Man did and just did it better, and
Agreed.
Man, I love Miss Pac-Man.
Agreed. That's why it's a cornerstone in like video game history. 100%.
100%.
Okay, 48.
47.
Sorry. Game Boy Advance. My favorite Mario RPG, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga.
Ooh.
I think it's better than Super Mario RPG. I like it more than Paper Mario. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is so much fun, and it gives you the hammer, which is really only a staple in RPG Mario games, not much else. But it's also the comedic writing in that game. It's so funny. It's self-referential, which I love. It is one of the best RPGs, not only that Nintendo made, but that's on the Game Boy Advance specifically. But the Game Boy Advance has a huge library, lots of shovelware. But Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga it stands out as such a unique RPG experience and such a unique Mario game. If no one has played that game, please find a way to play it because it is probably one of the best that the Game Boy Advance had to offer in its library. I love that game.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, 46. That's another one where I had it higher, but I don't want it vetoed, so I'm going to put it here at 46. This one's pretty near and dear to me. Metal Gear Solid 4. This game is just like, I mean, that literally, when I saw that game, when I saw my buddy Thomas play that game, I immediately went out and bought a PS3. It just was, at the time, I had never seen a game look so beautiful before. The story's incredible, and even though the cutscenes, like literally I think the last cutscene in that game is like 45 minutes long. It gets pretty crazy, but and on top of that, Metal Gear Online for Metal Gear Solid 4 was like, to this day, I think is easily like a top 5 like online game to me.
For good things.
Yeah, it's really, really good. So
Very fair.
I'm sticking it here at 46.
45. I wish I wish these would come back. Castlevania Symphony of the Night for the PlayStation 1. Holy God. What a fantastic action RPG that game is. You play through that game as Alucard. You play through it once, it's fantastic. You play through it a second time, the castle flips. It's like a brand new game. It's so much fun. The items you get along the way in that game, the boss fights in that game, traversing the world in that game, you can changing into different animals and stuff. It is so good. It is what a Castlevania game should be. It is what Castlevanias need to be moving forward. I wish Konami would make more Castlevania games. Symphony of the Night you could take that game and use it as a blueprint for an action RPG, especially a side-scrolling one. It is gorgeous. It's great pixel art. It's again, I've said this for the other games that I had, but one of the best that the PlayStation 1 had to offer. It is amazing.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great one to be on this list.
Yeah.
Ooh. It's getting real tough now. I'm looking at these games. I'm like, oh boy, I don't know what should come next. It's going to get real, real crazy here. Oh boy.
Say it. Just say it.
All right. I'm going to just throw it on here at number 44. I'm going with, should I say it? I feel like you're going to get mad at me. You know what? Tell you what, I'm gonna do this one instead. I'm gonna go with Mario Galaxy.
All right.
At 44. I want that one to be a little higher, but yeah, man. Mario Galaxy games, man, are just so freaking good.
Yeah.
They I really wish that team would do a Sonic game, because they took a 3D world like that where you like run around like planets and stuff, and it was seamless and perfect.
Yeah, it also showed you like what the Wii was capable of, with that Wii remote.
Yeah.
It's fantastic use of the system and its hardware.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So
that's
44.
Fine. All right, 43. It's tough, but it needs to be put up there. Melee. Super Smash Bros. Melee. A fighting game that still to this day is played in tournaments. A fighting game that, I know this first Super Smash Bros. Was successful. Melee took it to another level. It basically became like its own genre at that point in terms of a side-scrolling fighting game. The amount of characters, fantastic. The way you get characters is hilarious. Where it's just like, I'm just gonna leave this game turned on the Pokemon Stadium level, and then I'm gonna get Mewtwo. The introduction of the events were fantastic. I love the events in Melee. So much fun to play as. Seeing Giga Bowser was awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
It speaks for itself in terms of the multiplayer aspect. It has stood the test of time. It's still played in tournaments today. Like I said, it is just, it's the definition of a great GameCube game and what the GameCube had to offer.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I had that higher on my list. Melee's, masterclass game.
Yeah.
Okay. I went ahead and added a game, and I slipped it in right here. But I think this is a really good one for 42. Unreal Tournament. This is a game that like really, when it comes to like the competitive scene, especially with like FPSs, between this and Quake, like these are like really the first like arena shooters, and Quake came first, but I think like Unreal Tournament is like, what an awesome game. You're like jumping around, you got rocket launchers, all these like kooky characters.
Yeah.
And the LAN parties back in the day playing these, a game like Unreal Tournament is like, man, what an awesome game. And I've loved a few of the Unreal Tournaments after the first one, but I'm going to stick the original OG Unreal Tournament on here.
That's fair. I'm actually going to go with another FPS right next to you. This is number 41?
41.
41. My favorite FPS of all time, Overwatch.
Nice.
I've never been a huge FPS guy. But you introduced me to Overwatch, and what made it special was it is a hero/champion base game. Everyone's different. There's no loadout. There's no customizing to make you better than your opponent. It is literally, here's your character, be better than the opposite side, you know? And I love the creativity. I love the lore of that game. I love the Overwatch League that was birthed from the game. I love watching it competitively. I like playing it competitively. I love the fact that you can play that game in a million different ways. And whenever you play as a new character, it's like relearning the game over again. And I love that about it. I like, when I first played it, I played as Tracer because she's on the cover, and I was like, I'll play as her. And it was super fun. And then you switch it up to play as someone like Genji, and then you switch it up to play as someone like Reinhardt, and then you play as Zenyatta, and you realize that every single character works better on different places, on different maps. They work better with different teams. You know, a team can change based on your opponent. You know, being able to adjust on the fly, it is. I know a lot of people will talk trash about like toxicity and community, but when you get right down to the gameplay, it is brilliant. It is brilliant game development, and you cannot take that away from the team that created this game. It is truly one of a, well, not I won't say one of a kind, because now there are other games like it, but it is an amazing FPS game, and the champions in that game are so unique, and how they're created and how they affect gameplay. It is amazing to play each and every single character.
Yeah, I think that's the game I've put the most time in ever, like ever. Like it's a game I just come back to, like that and Towerfall. Like I just, and I had Overwatch in my top 10.
Wow, really?
And I had to take it out. Yeah, I mean, it's like,
That's
it's
fair.
hard to, it's really hard to, yeah, like, or I should say, you could easily make the argument for it in a top 10. I mean, it's, when I think about the games I've put the most time in, I mean, that's easily number one. So yeah, I think great. I had it at like, I had it in my top 10 for sure, but at least it's on the list. Like, that game is so good.
Well deserving.
Okay. Number 40, this is another one where it's like, I needed to add something back in, but I think this is like a pretty perfect spot for a game like this. You can make the argument for a few of the games in this series, but I picked this one because it was my favorite out of the bunch. I have your Fire Emblem Path of Radiance.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, you could really make the argument for several of these games, but I really like Path of Radiance for the GameCube. That was my introduction to the series, and kind of the introduction to the US, as far as I'm aware. Actually, no, I think there was one for the GBA before that, but I loved Path of Radiance. I loved the story. I loved the characters. It was really good. So I wanted to make sure at least one of the Fire Emblems made it on this list, and that's the one I went with because it was my favorite out of the bunch.
Yeah, that was, I think that came out in 2005. I'm double checking.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, see, my introduction was the Game Boy a year before. It was Game Boy Advance. It was because they made the Golden Sun and Sacred Stones, I think is what they were called. I had the Sacred Stones, and I absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite Game Boy games ever made. It is such a good Fire Emblem game, and there's one aspect of it that was so creepy about the story, about a dude and his dead wife, and I was just like, oh my god, this is wrong. Yeah, no, I agree. If it wasn't Path of Radiance, it would be Sacred Stones, which was mine. But I'm fine to interchange either one because they're both great.
Nice. Yeah, and I haven't played the one for the Switch actually, but I've heard nothing but great things.
Yeah, me too. Okay, yeah. 39.
Getting tricky.
Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker for the GameCube.
I think that's a good spot for it.
It is. It's one of the best psychs ever in video game history, where everyone saw like the tech demo for the GameCube Zelda game, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, this looks so badass and epic!" And then you see Wind Waker, and you're like, "What? This looks like a little kid. This looks like a child's game." But playing through it, and especially the Wind Waker HD, because it just made it even more of a beautiful game.
Mm-hmm.
What a unique art style! What a unique setting, the ocean, you're with pirates. The music by itself is something to behold. I love the music in that game. I used to, when I was younger, I would go to Dragon Roost Island, and I would just put Link there and leave the TV on while I did homework so I could listen to the Dragon Roost Island theme song. I love that.
That's great.
I love that music. I love that game. The music tracks in that game are amazing. The setting is great. The characters are memorable. Running into the Great Deku Tree with Kokiri, what they've become, these little tree monsters. Fighting Ganon. The sword play in that game is different than all the other Zelda games beforehand. They tried to make it a little more actiony, where you could counter and dodge. I love that aspect of it. It made it a little more fun playing it with unique enemies where you had to roll and dodge behind them to untie their armor. It's just one of the best the GameCube had to offer. It's one of the best Zelda games ever made, hands down. And you play through that game, and then you could play it with his pajamas on, the blue shirt with the yellow pants.
Yeah.
It's great. I love that game, and everyone, again, it's one of the best psychs. But when everyone played it, no one had something bad to say about it.
Actually, a lot of people did when it first came out because of the art style. But I think people slowly, kind of came around over time.
That's what I mean.
Especially because like that cel shaded style just like really holds up.
Yeah. Like once you play through the game, you're like, all right, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see here. Number 38. Next on my list, I have Shadow of the Colossus. So this is a game like, it's for the I mean, this is a PS2 game, and the scale of like these bosses you had to fight were incredible. And just like that game, despite the world being a little empty, it just felt so vast and like just kind of interesting. It was very like, especially at the time, there really like wasn't many games like that.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of lonely and sad, and you have to like basically kill these, big gods.
Titan
and it's
monsters,
just like,
yeah.
And it's just kind of, just to like bring back your love, and it's just like it's kind of like a heartbreaking game, and it's man, what a just stellar game for its time.
Sure. All right, 37?
37.
All right, I know you mentioned this rule, but I'm going to present my argument as to why I think it should still be on the list. Pokemon Red and Blue. I know I mentioned Gold and Silver. However,
sure did.
There is one aspect of Red and Blue to counter that rule that you mentioned, and that's missing now. The cheat code of all cheat codes in video game that was totally by accident, and it made that game arcadey. It made that game feel like you could 100% it through this ridiculous method of just getting infinite items, infinite master balls, infinite rare candies, and it made it so much fun to 100% that game, because you just like, whenever you're running low on something, you do the missing no cheat, and then which is built in, like it's kind of a glitch by accident. It's not a cheat code. It's not like you did, it's a total by accident thing. And yeah, I heard it could corrupt your game save. It never happened to me. I caught it.
Right.
Nothing ever happened to me. I would get infinite rare candies, and then once you do that, you're the cool kid on the block who can trade anything to anybody and get whatever you want, because you might be the only one that knows about it. No one else does. It made it more arcadey for me than Gold and Blue. Well, any other Pokemon game, really. Just because of the cheat that allowed you to get infinite items on whichever slot you had them on. You can say that it's not allowed, but I think it should be just for that alone. Just that aspect of alone made it memorable. Aside from it being a really good game too. I mean, let's not, act like Pokemon Red and Blue isn't a fantastic Pokemon game. It is revolutionary for the Game Boy.
Sure.
It changed the world. So,
all right, I accept your argument.
Thank you
for having a similar game on the list.
Thank you. That's really the only
I'll
one.
allow it. Yeah. Man, I've been really going back and forth on like what I'm gonna put on this list next.
It's getting tough.
It's getting really tough because there's a few games I really want to go higher, and there's just no dang room to do it.
Sure.
Gosh, it's really tough now.
Spit it out. I'm getting hungry.
Boy.
I want pizza.
I'm gonna go with the Resident Evil 1 remake for the GameCube.
Okay.
It is and I was debating between the original Resident Evil and the remake, and the original is really good because it was just like, you know, kind of its own thing at the time. There really wasn't any horror games like that. But you know, Resident Evil remake for the GameCube was really like the first game, like kind of the first remake, you know, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And they really did an incredible job with that game, and it's so freaking scary on the GameCube. And you know, I love the Resident Evil GameCube remake.
Yeah. I got no arguments. It's fantastic.
All right, number 35.
35. I'm going with the greatest PS3 game ever made, The Last of Us. I know it could be higher, but it's getting to that point where there's so little room to move things around now. The Last of Us, I mean, I don't think there's anything that needs to be said about it. If you played the game, you know. I mean, if you haven't, what's wrong with you? Just find a way to play that game, because it is it is the greatest movie on a video game console. It is the best video game that the PS3 had to offer. Yeah, I have nothing negative to say about that game. It is heartbreaking, heartwarming. You feel all the emotions. You know, one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that game is stellar.
Yeah.
And I had that in my top 5. Like,
that's fair.
The Last of Us is
very fair.
Yeah, I think about that game a lot, and you know, when I was like coming out with my list, like it's like, what are the games I think about a lot?
Sure,
and that's definitely one of them. So next on my list, I'm gonna go with. Oh boy, it's getting tough. I'm gonna go with Celeste for my next one.
Oh, damn it!
I know.
had that on my list too. I love Celeste.
Yeah, Celeste is like. Oh, man, I had that much higher as well. I had that at number 11 on my list at one point, but it's getting really tough. So you know, I want to put this higher, but in the 30s, I think it's still a good spot for it. Celeste is like such an impactful game, and I think it's the only game to really dive deep into you know, kind of mental problem, you know, like
sure,
anxiety, you know, like you know, I suffer from
I was gonna say it presents it in a beautiful way.
Yeah, it's like, you know, the game is all about anxiety, and you know, as somebody that like, you know, struggles with anxiety a lot, like I've never heard it like explained as well as like in that game. You know, it's really beautiful. The whole story within it, and then just the moment to moment gameplay is literally perfect.
Yeah,
I absolutely love the gameplay in that game.
Yep.
All right, what you got for 33?
Sorry, I'm like moving stuff around as well.
I know it's tough now. You know, the first, you know, 50 through 100, it's like, you know, whatever, let's throw some crap on here. But it's like now it's really, it's really tough. Yeah. This is where it's like, man, we're gonna have to start like adding things in we didn't want to add.
Separate the men from the boys at this point.
I know.
Okay.
It's
next up, the original Legend of Zelda on the NES.
Ooh.
The original Legend of Zelda is still one of the best Legend of Zelda games ever made, because up until Breath of the Wild, for some reason they changed it up where they shoehorned you into what you need to do in a Zelda game. If you want to go here, you got to go here first. You need to do this, and then you can do that. Original Legend of Zelda is you literally are dropped into the world, and they just say, have fun.
Yeah, good luck.
Go wherever you want, do whatever you want, fight whoever you want, and hopefully you don't die. And I love that about it. The freedom in that game, it is incredible. You meet the old man who's just like, it's dangerous, bro. Here's a sword. Good luck. That's Miyamoto being like, this is the only hint. This is the only thing I'm going to give you.
Yeah.
Good luck. And other than that, you know, you explore, you find secrets, you can go to any dungeon, you can fight all the monsters. I love it. I love that aspect of it. And I love the, you know, outside of the actual gameplay, I love the OG artwork for that because it's very 80s like fantasy. And I've always had a soft spot for that type of art style where it looks like that 80s fantasy D&D kind of style artwork. And I always loved it. It's that game is one of the most freeing games you can play where there's really like no restrictions. It's just you're dropped in, have fun.
Yep.
Plus the birth of a one of the best video game soundtracks of all time, or songs of all time, I should say. Just the main overworld theme is synonymous.
Yeah. All right. So this is kind of a tough one. I actually just added a game in because I realized I only had 49. You know, as we've been going back and forth, and so I had to throw something in here. But you know, it's been kind of on and off my list several times. But I still think like in the 30s is like a pretty decent spot for it. I'm gonna throw Splatoon on here. It's
really,
you know, yeah, you know, I think it's just like such a fascinating, like really cool multiplayer game that we don't really get too many of. You know, it's
that's true.
Basically like Nintendo's take on like an online multiplayer game, and it's just like I love the world. Yeah, you know, their version of a shooter, but it's like I love the world. I love the mechanics in that game. The single player modes are always like crazy fun, and like I'm super excited for whenever we get Splatoon 3 and like what they're gonna do with the story kind of going forward, and their take on like you know, their seasons in that game and like their special events where it's just like you would have teams vote on different things. It's like, you know, hot dog versus hamburger, and you would vote on like
ketchup and mayo, like, and
yeah, and I always thought that was like so interesting, and like there's really no game doing anything like that.
It's true, and
it's just, you know, it probably needs to be lower on this list, but you know, we're getting to that stage. It's like, oh shoot,
I'd also like to learn
doubling up on stuff, and
I'd like to learn more about that world too. It's weird lore because it's like there's no humans left. It's just those weird ink or octopus creatures.
What's the strange thing about it? It's like apparently the lore is like humans have been gone for a long time,
and it's
like
just
these
them.
Squid people took over.
What happened?
Yeah, so yeah, I think we're going to get more of that in Splatoon 3. So,
all right,
you know,
fair enough. What number are we at now?
31.
31. I think I have enough. Okay. All right, 31. The best Resident Evil game ever made. RE4.
Man.
I
had that so much higher.
I know. My list is getting tight, but like it's got to go. Mario. Resident Evil 4, it is, it's just the greatest Resident Evil game ever made. Hands down. Yeah. You know, it's silly, it's fun, you've got an annoying character that you need to save, and Ashley, and you're saving the president's daughter from this evil cult in Spain with zombie monsters. Doesn't make any sense, but it's hilarious. It's super fun. You fight a giant like fish monster at one point. You've got Leon being sassy with the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was a rookie cop the first time, and now he's like a special agent for the United States. I mean, probably one of the most replayable games ever made. Yeah. It's so much fun to replay that game so many times over with different weapons, with different loadout. Man, I mean, it's the best Resident Evil game ever made, and it's probably the best GameCube. Well, maybe not the best GameCube game ever made, but it's up there.
Yeah. Oh boy, you took a big one off my list, and I don't know what to replace it with. That's things are about to get scary.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to throw some nonsense in here, probably. If something like awful turns out to be number one,
dude, don't. If you take my number one, I will I'll choke you.
Yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. Whew, boy. Okay, 29. I'm gonna go with Metal Gear Solid 3, which I think is the best in the series. Snake Eater. It's or excuse me, not number 20. Number 30.
30. Okay.
Is, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. It's that game and its story is so good, and man, that's one of those games where it's like the last boss fight is just like kind of tragic, and the moment gameplay is really good in that game. And I mean, really every boss fight is incredible. Like my favorite one being the fight with the character The End. And it's I've never fought a boss kind of like The End, and it's wow. Seriously, that game, I think about it a lot. It's so good.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
All right. Okay.
29. We're in the 20s.
29. I got The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.
Nice.
I went with that over Ocarina because it's basically the same gameplay. It's just a different setting, 3D mechanic, which was super interesting to me. It was never done before. It was such a unique aspect of it. It's a much darker and creepier game. Like some of the dialogue you have with the moon children once you get to the moon, it is really deep, and you're just like, oh my god, this is a kid's game. Well, it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It gets very like philosophical and almost existential crisis kind of when you talk to them. It's really fun to observe the world and replay it, because you have to, for different missions, you have to know what's going to happen. So a lot of that game is spent memorizing people's patterns and what they're going to do, which is unlike any other Zelda game. And I still don't think a Zelda game's been made that can replicate that. And I'm going with the 64 version specifically because the 3DS version, they changed a few things that it just didn't work. It just didn't feel as good. But also you get to play as Zora, you get to play as Goron, you get to play as a Deku, which is, again, that's never been done before in a Zelda game, and you're changing up your main character of Link to make him play as these weird creatures, and it works. Playing as Zora, swimming in that game feels so good compared to the 3DS version, which did not work. The swimming in the 3DS version, they kind of just ruined it. I don't know why they changed it, but they made it worse. But yeah, Majora's Mask, love it.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, we're getting into some really tough territory here.
Yep.
This is a little higher on my list, but I'm gonna stick it here. I think it's really good in the 20s, and maybe this is on your list. I hope not, just so we don't double up on things. But number 28, maybe I should add one in because I'm missing one. I'm gonna stick one in here just in case you have this. I'm gonna throw in 28, Cuphead. This game is like
that high.
I had to stick something in here. Like I said, I'm missing one at this point, but it's a pretty darn good one.
Yeah.
First off, the fact that entire game is hand drawn is like a feat in and of itself.
Sure.
It's beautiful. I mean, the art style is like incredible. Every boss is like fascinating, and I love everything about that game, from the minute to minute gameplay to the kooky characters to everything that game has to offer. I really like it. Cuphead's like a very special game.
All right, that's fair. All right, where are we at? Number 20?
27.
27. All right, Elder Scrolls Skyrim. I think
I wasn't sure if that was going to be on your list.
I think it's well deserving to be up there.
Yeah.
I mean, it is probably the best Bethesda game ever made. It's been re-released on everything. I think at one point you could play it on like a refrigerator at some point, like a Samsung fridge or something like that. Maybe I'm making that up, but I'm pretty sure that happened.
I wouldn't doubt it.
That game it's everywhere, but for a reason. It's a fantastic RPG. With a really interesting world. Probably it produced one of the greatest memes ever, with an arrow to the knee in the early internet days. Being able to dual wield in that game, like one hand can be magic while the other hand could be like a sword or something, having the functionality of both hands being able to do different things. I love that. The skill tree in that game is massive. You can upgrade so many different aspects of your character. It's a really fun, interesting world to travel around. And if you're a big fantasy fan, like that has everything you would want in a fantasy setting, which, yeah, I mean, it's why it's celebrated as much as it is.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
I think that's good. Okay, 26. I'm actually going to take out a game that I know is going to be on your list. And I've thought of one that I think this is like a pretty good spot for it to go. Hard to argue with this one, in my opinion. Number 26, Pong.
Pong. Wow.
Pong, man. I think Pong needs to be on this list somewhere, or we've done just a disservice to video games.
But it's
everywhere.
so boring.
That started games.
I
man.
know.
That's the first Wii Sports.
That's true.
Your grandma could play Pong.
That's very true.
And it's also something that, like I said, I know you're gonna have this other game on your list, so I need to like take some stuff off so that we're not doubling up too much.
All
we're
right.
gonna get into really bad territory, but I think Pong is great on this list.
All right, that's fair. Okay, so 24?
25.
25. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. The greatest kart racer ever made. There's a reason why they re-released it on the Switch, or the deluxe version.
Yeah.
It's the best kart racer ever made. It is, I know a lot of people love Double Dash. I think Mario Kart 8 is even better. I mean, it's first off, it's a gorgeous game to look at, especially on the Switch. The deluxe version it's beautiful. It plays well. It's the multiplayer on it speaks for itself. Obviously, the battle mini games you can do in deluxe it's so much fun. It is the staple of what a kart racer should be. Every aspect about it is excellent. Like I can't complain about the game at all. It's just a perfect kart racer.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue with.
Yeah.
Mario Kart 8.
And I know you had Mario Kart 64, but I think Mario Kart 8 is it's too perfect to ignore.
Yeah, I think it's just different enough to kind of put on this list.
Yeah.
All right. Whoo boy. So number 24, I'm gonna stick on here. Super Mario World.
Oh, you took my. How dare you?
Yeah, it's dude. Super Mario World is really, really damn good.
I know it is.
It's and man, it's like in my personal like top 20, but yeah, it had to go somewhere on this
That's
list.
a top 10 game for me.
Yeah, it's really good, but I think there's a few Mario games a little higher. So 24, baby.
Rearrange things now. Hold on, I gotta rearrange things. Okay, then I'll just put this as the next one, and then my list can stay the same because I think it fits right in here. Okay. Damn you. Okay, 21.
23.
23. Mario Party 64.
Ooh, that's a great one.
Mario Party 64 is the birth of something that I don't think has been replicated, and if it has, it hasn't been replicated well because the Mario Party series it stands by itself. The introduction of all these great mini games, having all these kooky Mushroom Kingdom characters interact with each other on a board game, is fantastic, and it is. I don't want to say it's the birth of the couch co-op, but it is the reason why people got together to hang out for video game nights on like Fridays and Saturdays. Mario Party is, you can play it a million times with your friends and it won't get old because it's always different. It's different than like other multiplayer games where you play through levels and you're doing the same stuff. But Mario Party is, you never know who's going to win a mini game. You never know who's going to win a battle. You never know who's going to get the mystery block or the star. It's the birth of something very unique that Nintendo has.
Yeah.
So, Mario Party.
Nice. Okay, so we're really we're coming down to the wire where
Yeah.
it's like every decision's gonna be really tough.
Oh yeah.
And it's like everything we say now, it's just like no. But I'm gonna stick right here. I think it's like such a feat in and of itself, but I think it's held back by its online, so I'm gonna stick it at 22. Super Smash Brothers Ultimate.
God, that was my next one.
Yeah, it's
Jesus, now I need to find a replacement.
Yeah, I think it's like that's a incredible game, but the fact that like they still have not been able to figure out the you know, the whole online infrastructure is beyond ridiculous. So yeah. So I'm gonna stick it right there at 22. But man, is that just a feat in and of itself?
Oh, what am I gonna move?
Oh
around?
yeah.
What am I gonna move?
I got it. I bet there's about 10 games on here that we have doubled up.
Oh, we absolutely do.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to do some thanking.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fine. I'll move this one. Sorry. This is when it gets really difficult because we're just moving the list around.
Ooh. But we're almost done. We're coming to, we're at 21. We're in the opening stretch, or the final stretch here.
Yeah.
It's gonna get rough, but I think we can do it.
Okay. 22, 21?
21.
Chrono Trigger for the Super Nintendo.
Nice.
One of the greatest RPG games ever made. The Super Nintendo produced a ton of great RPGs. Chrono Trigger has time travel, has multiple endings. It has wonderful characters, a great cast, great combat system, beautiful pixel art. Akira Toriyama did the artwork for it. He's the guy who did Dragon Ball and the Dragon Ball Z series.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a damn near perfect RPG. And it's one of a staple in a Super Nintendo collection.
Absolutely.
And great music, too.
And great music. Okay. I'm going to add a game in here because I know you're going to have a couple of these things.
Oh, so. We're definitely going
to... yeah. I know we're going to double up.
Yeah,
so
a lot.
I'm going to put into 20 here. I'm going to put in Pikmin. This
Pikmin?
is like such a... Oh, heck yeah. You're not a Pikmin fan?
No.
Oh boy.
Not really.
I mean, what a cool little like strategy game that is. It's something that's just like, once again, man, it just came from like Miyamoto's head. Just this weird world where you're like running around like collecting these little Pikmin.
Yeah.
And it's just there's not too much like it, man. And that's what I kind of love about Nintendo and some of the kooky games they come up with. But
it is unique.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
It's very unique, and I think like all three games are just really darn. Like Pikmin 3 is like fantastic sure. game. It takes a lot of strategy, and yeah.
All right, that's fair. All right, 19.
19.
We're in the teens. The original Super Mario Brothers.
I knew it was coming eventually.
They had to. I mean, the original Super Mario Brothers, if you want to learn how to make a video game, play that, and then you'll know how to make video games. It's the legacy. It is the birth of a franchise, of a worldwide phenomenon. So the mascot of video games.
All right. Yeah. You can make an argument is like a top 5 easily.
Oh yeah. You can make an argument as number 1.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to put, I really thought you were going to say this game by now, but I'm going to throw it on here. I'm glad it has made it to the teens because I think this is also just a really special game. I'm putting Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
Okay, that's fair. That wasn't on my list.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Well, I kept waiting for you to say it.
It's truly one of a kind for sure. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it really is like something's just. It's hard to explain. You just have to kind of play that game, and you got to put headphones on.
Yep.
And once again, like that's a fantastic game when it comes to like mental disorders and you know, basically mental disorders mixed with like Nordic lore is just like what a crazy combination of things, and it just comes together in this like beautiful package, and the acting is absolutely like top-notch stellar in that game, and
Agreed.
I really can't say too many good things. It needed to be on here somewhere. And I thought it would make it into like the 20s somewhere. I figured you'd say it eventually. So
was not on my list, but I thought about it. It was an alternate. All right. Number 17.
Number 17.
Batman: Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, I knew it was coming eventually.
Yeah, I mean, Arkham Asylum. It was tough to pick between that and City. I chose Asylum because not only was it the first, but it introduced Detective Vision, which after that game came out, every game had detective mode, like a Detective Vision kind of style. But it also had great combat.
Everybody copied their combat too.
Yeah, the combat, it introduced that combat for a lot of other games. The acting and the voice cast, it is sublime. It is probably the greatest cast I would say in a video game. It feels like a Batman comic book. It feels like an episode of the animated series, just a little bit darker than the animated series. It is an extension of that, and there's nothing bad you can say about the animated series. You feel like Batman in that game. It gets to a point where it's a little creepy, which I really like.
Yep.
Fantastic boss fights, interacting with all these Batman characters and the villains. Just, I got nothing bad to say about Batman: Arkham Asylum. When I played that for the first time, I didn't want any other game to play. I didn't want any other game to be different than that. I loved Arkham Asylum so much. I remember the demo at a GameStop when I tried it. I was like, oh my god, this is Batman. Like, why aren't there more superhero games like this? And it's one of a kind.
Yeah. It's definitely, I was kind of debating between that and City.
Yeah.
And my preference is City, but I easily see the argument for Asylum. And it really just changed the game, especially for like IP games. Like, that game came out at a time where like there really weren't any good like licensed games. If you remember, at the same time that game came out, like right around the same time, the Batman what's the first Batman movie in the trilogy, the Nolan trilogy?
Oh, Batman Begins.
Batman Begins. Yeah. There was a Batman Begins game that came out right around the same time that was like real booty.
Yeah.
And I kept actually like confusing the two at the time. And when I finally played Arkham Asylum, I was like, this game is absolutely incredible. Like,
yeah. It's the atmosphere in that game. It's just amazing.
Yeah. You could say it's like a perfect Metroidvania.
Yeah. You could say it's a perfect game.
Yeah. 100%. Okay. Tough calls ahead. Tough calls.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 16, I'm going to put Donkey Kong. The original Donkey Kong. That's like, once again, it's like an endlessly playable game. A lot of people, I would say most people, can just pick that game up and play it.
Yeah.
It's still fun to this day, and, needs to be recognized. It's just like such a really, like, that was a game changer for Nintendo. Was Donkey Kong.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Okay, where were we at? 15. Top 15. Oh boy. I'm gonna go Super Mario 64.
Woo!
Could easily be a number one. Could easily be a top 5, top 2, could easily be a lot of people's favorite game of all time. One of the greatest launch titles ever. Yeah. I mean, it's right there with Tetris and Pong and Wii Sports. It is synonymous with the 64. It is, it's better than Mario Odyssey. It's still probably, it's still the best, I think, the best 3D Mario game ever made. Yeah, I mean, Mario 64, yeah, I mean, I exploring Peach's castle, jumping through paintings, going through all the different worlds, collecting all the stars. You feel like a platformer could not be better than that. The way you traverse the world, the way you run and jump, it's like Mirror's Edge before Mirror's Edge. It's if you can master the camera in that game, you're set. Because the movement is flawless.
You literally took my number one.
Wow.
After sleepless nights thinking about these games, I was like, my gut went with Mario 64 because it's like
that's fair.
Pretty. I mean, it's hard to say that's not like an almost perfect game. It's especially for its time, it was pretty groundbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
All right, boy, what am I gonna put next? It's getting really, really tough. So, oh man, I am going to go with. Yikes.
Not easy. Tough call.
It's not easy now. I'm going to go with. I'm debating between two at this point. I'm going to go Red Dead Redemption 2.
Really?
And I think it's. Yeah, dude, that game. Just like and Red Dead was much higher on my list too. And, I think they're similar in certain ways, but it's also like. Red Dead Redemption 2 just really kind of took it to the next level in a lot of ways. And man, the ending of that game, just like Red Dead, the first Red Dead, I really just had to just sit on it for a long time. And I think about Red Dead 2 a lot, and it's a game I really want to revisit. And it's really a world you could just live in,
Yeah.
You could really get lost in that world.
That's true.
And it's very slow paced, on purpose. And I mean, you could. It's crazy, how kind of just big that world is, and how much you could do in it. And I mean, the story alone is just, I think, is top notch, just AAA writing in a video game.
Yeah.
It's man, it's a very, very special game. I love Red Dead 2.
That's fair.
So I needed to get it on here somewhere, and I had it even higher, but
sure.
I think 14's a good spot where it won't get vetoed.
Okay. No, we're not. I don't think we're going to veto anything at this point.
It's tough.
These are the masterclass games.
Yeah.
Okay, 13. Lucky 13. Donkey Kong Country 2 for the Super Nintendo.
Dude, I knew it was coming, so I kept it off my list.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to put Donkey Kong Country on here somewhere.
Donkey Kong Country 2, a lot of people always bring up Donkey Kong Country 1. Dude, you cannot sleep on 2. It is amazing how much better it is as a video game.
Yeah, 100%.
The level design is a class of its own. Playing as Diddy and Dixie Kong introduces a new aspect where Dixie can glide. The collectibles in that game are great. Using the collectibles when you go to the game show, it's super fun. It's such a rare staple to have a little game show quiz you on the game you're playing. It was the same thing in Banjo-Kazooie where they're like, so what happened at this point? Let's see if you're paying attention to the game we made. I love that. And the music, it is one of the greatest soundtracks on a video game. I mean, I still listen to the Donkey Kong Country 2 soundtrack today. I love it. And I love that game. It is, and it's not Donkey Kong. It's just Diddy and Dixie. It is a perfect platformer. It is a perfect 2D, in terms of 2D level design. You could use that as a blueprint, and you'd be hard pressed to make a better level design today. It is excellent. The fact that they made it windy, they changed it up. You play as your parrot and you're flying through thorn bushes, very stressful, with the most calming music. Different animals you can play as. It's the best of it's the best Donkey Kong game ever made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. Donkey Kong Country 2 is incredible.
Yep.
And if you didn't mention the music's also good.
Oh, I did. Best soundtrack.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna stick right here, in number 12. I don't know if you had this one on your list. Probably not, but I'll keep it out of the top 10 just in case. I'm gonna go with The Last of Us Part 2.
I did not have that on my list.
Yeah. All right. Well, good.
Still a good
yeah,
game, though.
we gotta. Yeah, dude. I go back and forth as far as like which one I think is the better game, and I know The Last of Us Part 2 is very divisive, but I think that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
Where it's just like they wrote a game. They wrote the story in this game, not. It's just they were true to the characters and what the characters would do, and they didn't write what like everybody would be happy and satisfied with.
Yeah.
It's a world where like there's nothing good in that world. Like it
Unforgiving,
is gut wrenching and sad, and like they're not making that game. They're not writing a game for you to feel good at the end.
It is a hopeless world.
Yeah, and that's a game where it's like I felt so awful by the end. Like I literally was like sad for a day.
Yeah.
Or it's just like for the things that game made me do. It basically put a gun in my hand, and it was just like you're gonna go and kill this person.
Yeah.
And it's just like Jesus Christ.
I remember texting you like the day after I beat it. I was like, I need to play like Paper Mario to just cleanse my palate. Like I feel so just terrible. Like I don't feel like a good person right now. It's tough. It's tough to play through.
It makes you feel awful, and not many games do that.
Yeah.
I'd
Agreed.
say a lot of games really like, they bend to the will of the player, and this game it's like nope, we're gonna do what we feel is right for this awful world.
Yeah.
And they did it, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It is bleak for sure. All right. Where are we at? Number
11.
Number 11. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. It's tough to choose between the two. All right, I'm gonna go with my gut. Breath of the Wild.
Dang.
Breath of the Wild
didn't even crack top 10.
I mean, it's right there. It was between this or the other game I had, but Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's like I said about the original Legend of Zelda. It is the most freeing game where it's just like you start the game and it just says good luck, have fun, do whatever you want, and it's also a great tutorial. Like the overworld is a fantastic tutorial about how to play that game without any instruction. The fact that you can climb anything in that game, I'm surprised more games haven't done that yet. It's amazing where it's like, you can go up, down, left, and right. Nothing's stopping you. And you can, if you want to climb that tree, do it. If you can, just try. And it's tough. It's tough without being like unfair. It is like, I want to fight this thing, but my sword broke and I'm all out of other weapons. So I got to run away now and find some more. I know a lot of people were kind of on and off about that, like the item breaking mechanic, but I liked it. I mean, I basically just made like a little fort in the world where it's like, this is where I keep all my extra stuff. Where if I need to, I just run back, I pick up a couple swords, and I go back into the world. So it's a beautiful. The music also, it's beautifully composed, where it's very subtle. It's not triumphant, dramatic music over what you do. It's very subtle as you traverse the world, like very subtle piano notes as you're traveling. It's beautiful. Like it really is. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, 100%. Dude, that was number 3 on my list.
I know.
Like it's, ooh boy.
Yep.
I've got to add games in it. I don't know what's gonna go in this top 10 now.
Oh god.
Oh, that's what I thought would make this hilarious. Oh boy. Okay. Okay, number 10. I think this is a good place for this. I'm gonna stick it right here. I'm gonna go with the original BioShock. This game is like, once again, just kind of especially for the time it came out, like 2007. I mean, this is like an absolutely masterclass game.
Sure.
Like BioShock, like the world itself is just so freaking fascinating. And, I could go back, like, every couple years I love going back to the BioShock games and playing through one of them
Right.
because it's just a world that I love. And you know, the mechanic, like the shooting mechanics are great, and I love like it was kind of the first game to do like recordings where you find recordings and play them,
Yeah.
and it's just you're getting story in the background as you're going around like shooting people in the face, and the twist at the end is so memorable even today.
Nice.
Yeah, it's such a like a top 10 game for me. It's so good.
Fair. That's fair. All right, number 9 that we're at.
Number 9.
Number 9. I'm going with one of my favorite sequels of all time, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. Just nothing like its predecessor. You're not playing as Mario. Mario's not even in it, technically. It's Baby Mario. What I love the way that game plays. I love shooting eggs at enemies. I love playing as Yoshi, creating eggs. You know, you've got Yoshi's a gun and the eggs are your bullets, which I love.
Yeah.
And I love the level design in that game as well, where you're traveling and constantly trying to fight and save Baby Mario from when you're attacked. And it's a great game. It's a great challenge if you want to try and play that game without taking a hit. Because, you know, if you can do it without taking a hit, you get like perfect scores, which I love. I love that aspect of it. And plus the Bowser fight at the end I think it's one of the better ones. I think it's really fun. Yeah, I love that game. I love the music. I really love the battle mechanic of eating enemies, spitting out eggs, and throwing eggs at bad guys, and the fact that you can ricochet it and it changes colors and changes. I love that. I love that game so much. One of my favorite sequels, and it's nothing like the first one, which I love.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Jeez, I'm looking at my list and there's not much left here. I've got 1, 2.
Should have 4, right?
Well, you know, we've been doubling up, and I
Oh
haven't.
yeah.
There's a couple games that like, you know, I need to like add things back in, but for a top 10,
don't you ruin this.
I guess there's 3 that I have, but I think all 3. Oh boy.
Just do it, man. Just say it.
All right. I'm gonna add this one in from off my list, but I think it's a good one for a top 10 still, even though it would be lower on mine. But follow up to Super Mario Brothers 2, I'm gonna add in here. You know, it's something where it's like,
wait, you don't like that game?
I'm not a big fan of it, that's for sure.
What?
But
why would you pick it?
Well, A, I need to find a game to stick on this list. B, well, let's see. What's another game I could throw on here?
I mean, you stick with it. I mean, I'm not going to veto it.
You know, oh boy, it's getting so tough.
I know. Stick with it. That's fine. I mean, I'm not going to veto it. I love that game. I know you've never been a big fan. I personally love it.
A lot of people love it, and you know, I played it a lot back in the day. You know, it just out of the Marios, it's not, you know, it's not in like my top 3, but we've said like basically my top 3 Mario games, or at least for the most part. So, you know, I took one for the team on this. You know, I needed to throw Mario Brothers 2 in.
All right, that's fair. Okay.
I tell you, it's getting tough now.
Where are we at, number 7?
Number 7.
2018's God of War. I mean,
there it is.
It's yeah. Again, I said about Last of Us. This is one of my favorite movies in a game of all time. I love the acting in this game. Like it is. when you watch the documentary on YouTube about how they made this game, it is truly a sight to behold, and it makes you more appreciative of it after watching that documentary. I love the cast of this game. Like I love every single actor who played their parts because they all nailed it. Yeah, I love Mimir, I love Kratos, I love Atreus. They're all just, they all knocked it out of the park. Like everyone on that credits roll, on the credit scroll, they all brought 100% to that game. I've played through that game a couple times now, and it will never get old for me. Like I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty stellar one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Are you looking for things to add?
Yeah, I'm looking at the games in my room. Like, what can I add? Like, it's really really tough now.
I mean, I'm surprised
feel like
you haven't said.
There's a couple of the. You know what? See, I'm trying to avoid what you're gonna say.
I mean, what my number one is.
It's hard to say. I have an idea of what it is. But yeah, man, this is really tough. It's not making for good radio with me struggling over here. But oh boy. I've got a great one that needs to be on this list that I didn't even think of until right now. It's a weird one, but I think it's a good one to put on here. And you could make an argument as a top 10. I'm going to put Duck Hunt on this list.
Ah, okay. That's not bad. Yeah. It's very worthy.
I mean that's a game that it really, like, that Duck Hunt / Mario Brothers game is like, that is gold in a cartridge. That is something that, like, I mean, everybody, once again, it's like a Tetris game. It's like a Wii Sports game where it's like anybody could pick up that little zapper gun.
Yep.
And
you know what you need to do
immediately. And you hate that stupid dog, but like, man, I used to love playing that game with friends back in the day, and it's always a good time.
Yeah.
You can hand the controller to anybody, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, I didn't have it on my list at all, but just looking around, like, that that game needed to be on here.
Yeah, no, I respect it. All right, what is this, number 5?
Number 5.
Ooh, number 5. All right, I'm going with Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
All right, I knew it was coming eventually.
It's one of my favorite Super Nintendo games ever made. It's my favorite Zelda game. Yeah, my favorite Zelda game to this point. I love the way that game starts. Your uncle's dead, and now you have to save this princess and protect her. And I love traveling that world. It was the first time I saw a map get flipped, and you're just like, now you're in the Dark World, and it's the same thing, but there are differences compared to what you're used to. And then you're going back and forth between the Overworld and the Dark World, fighting Ganon. The dungeons in that game are so much fun, and it's the secrets in that game. You don't have to find out the secrets when it comes to upgrading your items, but if you do, it is so worth it. It's, the hookshot is a game changer in Zelda games. It's still probably the best item ever introduced in a Zelda game, because you could basically do anything with the hookshot in A Link to the Past. You could fight enemies, you could traverse the world, you could grab items. It is everything you need in that game. Like, the hookshot made that game so much more special than it should have been.
Yeah.
And a great soundtrack. Let's not forget, that is a fantastic soundtrack.
For sure.
And you have pink hair. I love that Link has pink hair in that game.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to say, all right. Whoo, boy. This is really tough now. I'm not sure if you have this one on the list because you said another similar game. But I'm gonna put this one next. I'm gonna go with Super Mario Brothers 3. I think it's like,
I was waiting for that one.
Yeah, I don't. Did you have that one on your list?
No, but I had something very
Oh,
very close.
thank God,
That
because
I'm still gonna say
it. we needed some different games, so
Yeah.
thank goodness that one was not on your list. Yeah, I mean, Super Mario Brothers 3 is absolutely outstanding. I mean, they literally like on the NES, this game literally did like it took, it took Mario Brothers and just really just threw the kitchen sink
Yeah.
at it. It's just like
The fact that they
you can do
fit
it all now.
everything on the NES cartridge is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, no, it's
So.
well deserving. It could easily be a number one.
Yeah.
The one I had next is very close because it's Super Mario All Stars for the Super Nintendo.
Ah, yes.
And I had that one because I thought of Super Mario 3 and I was like, I can't just put Mario 3, 1, and 2, but All Stars is all of them plus the Mario Brothers like arcade game.
Yeah.
It's that full collection in one space. Probably one of the greatest collections ever packaged for release. I mean, it's got 3 all-time classics on one cartridge, plus the Mario Brothers game, which is fun as well with the PAL block and playing with Luigi. And All Stars, like I still have that cartridge. It just bundled up everything that you love in one place. And I that might be a cheat, but I think that game it's a fantastic collection item to have in your collection.
I would argue against it if it wasn't for the fact that they went through and basically remade the art style and 1, 2, 3. They added in a game we had never had, which is Mario: The Missing Levels.
Yep.
I mean, it's what a stellar package, especially that one that came out later, which is Super Mario All-Stars / Super Mario World.
Yeah.
That's a cartridge on the Super Nintendo. That is absolutely insane.
And I think I'm not sure, but I believe Super Mario All-Stars also introduced the save function for Super Mario
totally did.
For Super Mario 3, which
Yep.
it by itself is worthy because unfortunately Super Mario 3 didn't have a save function, so you just have to leave your system on, which sucks. This is a long game.
It is. I played most of the Mario Brothers games the most on that Super Mario All-Stars pack.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. I have a feeling I know your number one.
I mean, if you don't, I'll be mad at you. Like, it's my number one's very obvious.
Yeah. But it could go either way on this. Like, there are 2 games where I'm like, man, they're both really good games. But I think I know you, and I think I know what your number one's going to be.
You will.
So I disagree with your number one very slightly, but I'm gonna stick this at number 2. I'm gonna go Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
That's fine. That's fair. Very fair. I understand why you'd pick that as number one.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you why my number one is more worthy.
Yeah. And I know what it is, but yeah, I mean, Ocarina of Time, I think, is like, as far as like early 3D games and storytelling in video games and exploration in video games, I mean, that game is just like, it was mind blowing at the time.
Oh yeah.
It felt like that world was endless. It felt
huge. Like the first time you play it, like it felt like an actual world that you're traveling across. Yeah.
Yeah. And the story it told, and like how grand like the whole story felt, and like, how important your mission felt, and it's kind of a world you could get lost in, and
it's kind of a sad ending.
Yeah. But man, I love Legend of Zelda, and the controls are a little like tough these days, but I think in a lot of ways it still holds up.
I think it still holds up in terms of controls just because of the targeting system. Because that really doesn't age. I mean, it does slightly, but it really makes you feel better at combat than you actually are.
Yeah.
A lot of tennis in that game, though. You're fighting Ganondorf. A lot of tennis.
Oh yeah, a lot of tennis. All right.
Number
Bring it
one.
on. Number one.
I mean, it's obvious. If you know me, it's the greatest game. Not Overwatch.
Leisure Suit Larry.
No, it's the greatest game ever made. Mega Man X. I mean,
yep.
It's and I don't say that lightly. Yeah, it's from the moment you get to the main menu of game start password options, that game is teaching you how to play the game. Like from the moment you turn it on, it is teaching you what that game is, how to play it. It already taught you something before you even started playing the game. It's got the greatest tutorial level ever in history. It's got the greatest soundtrack in history. It is beautiful pixel art animation, colorful, vibrant. The powers are unique and special. The fact that you can dash and wall climb, it changed everything you loved about a Mega Man game. It made it feel much more epic and much more easier to move in that world. The boss fights are all fun and memorable. You don't necessarily need to go in any order, because you could, there is an order to how you play, but you can also do a speed order, which takes the bosses slightly out of order. Beating certain enemies or certain bosses affect different stages, like the look of them, which I always thought was the coolest thing. Like, it felt like the world was real because of that. Like, each stage gets affected by another. The introduction of Zero, just super cool. What a badass. He looked cool. He had great music. The Easter egg of the Hadouken power-up, I love that. Like, it's Capcom winking an eye at its IPs and its fans, saying like, yeah, we acknowledge what else we've made. It's a perfect game. It's the greatest game ever made. I mean, I have no problem saying that to anybody, and I'll say that the day I die. It is a perfect video game.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. Honestly, you take that game to anyone. I know I said this about Super Mario Brothers, but literally every aspect of Mega Man X, you could take it to a video game development class 101 and be like, see this? See how they do this? That's how you make a video game. It's like you're teaching the person how to play the game as they're playing it, and you're teaching them in a way where it's not forced. It's not beating you over the head with how to do things. It's just very subtle of like, how do I get past this? Well, on the main menu, it showed me a different type of attack than my normal little lemon shooter. Oh, I can charge. Oh, game changer! I can charge my shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems dumb like saying it now, but like, playing it as like a 6-year-old, you're learning without being told anything. It is truly I won't say one of a kind, but it is in a league of its own, in a class of its own. Like, I don't think it can ever be touched.
Yeah, it's a perfect game, man. I 100% agree, and which why I didn't even put it on the list, because I knew it was going to be in like a top 2 or 3 for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic, man. I think it's well worth being at the number 1 spot here. So
yeah,
I gotta say, man, I was sweating there at the end, but I think we ended up with a pretty stellar list.
I think so.
With like some last minute additions there. I think you can make a good argument for everything that's on this list. It might take a while to read all 100, but should I read the top 20 again?
Sure.
At the very least.
Yeah, I think so.
So starting at 20, we got Pikmin, Super Mario Brothers, Hellblade, Batman Arkham Asylum, Donkey Kong, Super Mario 64, Red Dead 2, Donkey Kong Country 2, Last of Us Part 2, Breath of the Wild, BioShock, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario Brothers 2, the PS4 God of War, Duck Hunt, Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Super Mario Brothers 3, Super Mario Brothers All-Stars, and Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and Mega Man X. It's like, even a top 20, that's pretty
strong.
Pretty stellar.
Yeah. I mean, it is I think well deserved by every single spot. I believe
for
that.
sure. We did it, man.
Oh man.
What
hungry.
a crazy, I know, right? Me too. We're coming in at 3.5 hours right now.
Ooh.
But you know what? Like, I wanted to do it like this. I even thought like, for like like episode 99, it's like maybe, we could do like a 50 and then a 50. I was like, no, man, we're going to go hard.
One giant, massive episode list. You submit this to IGN and every publication be like, this is the only list that matters.
Yeah, and they're like, what is Duck Hunt doing? You know damn well what Duck Hunt's doing. But yeah, man, I wanted to just go out with a bang with episode 100, do our top 100, video games, and we did it, man.
Yeah, we did.
I'm pretty impressed.
And I just want to preface that this list could change on every day or any given day. This list would change. So
yeah, 100%, man. And it's like a weird combo of our two lists, because it's like our lists, in a lot of ways were very different from one another.
Yeah.
Like I really in the top 5, like I had, like Last of Us Part 2 and stuff. It's just I mean, very very different lists, but I think we, the combo of the two, man, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, it's pretty strong.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. That is I'm burnt out now.
Yeah.
But, I even prepped some Mario quiz cards just in case. And we're not gonna do that.
No.
We did it. We did 100 episodes.
Woo!
Woo! Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for this extra long episode. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed going through these episodes with us. If you feel like we missed any games, shout us out. Hit us up on Instagram. I'm at Zach Matzganis, ZACKMATZGANIS. Hav, where can we find you?
I'm at Loverboy_Hav.
And of course, we're at Go Multiplayer as well. And like I said at the top of the show, we're gonna be shutting down now for a little bit. But I'm hoping to be back soon, because I love doing the show. I don't want to speak for Hav, but I'm pretty sure he kind of likes doing this.
Can't stand it.
Once in a while.
No, I'm joking.
But no, man, I love talking video games. So, I hope for the listeners and viewers out there, you enjoy this stuff just as much as we do, and we'll come back and support us when we're back again. I want to give a big shout out to our Patreon subscribers. We do that. We have our little ending bit at the top of at the end of the show, but just want to give an extra special thanks to anybody, even if you dropped off at some point. I want to just thank everybody that has supported us over on Patreon over the last few years here. It just helps to there's small costs in paying for the RSS feed for the podcast and stuff like that. So it really just helps to cover those costs. So thank you so much to everybody out there that has supported us over the years. We really appreciate it, and we'll let you know when we're back. We will be back.
Yeah,
it will happen. I can guarantee it. So thank you so much, everybody. Hav, you got any last words for us?
Man, I just want to say I love you, man.
I love you too, baby.
And I love everybody out there. And I just want, just enjoy your time. Enjoy your time. Play some fun games. Come up with your own list. And enjoy it with whoever you love as well. That's what this is all about. Just having good times with good people. Just play some fun video games with your friends and your family, man. It's worth it.
Yeah. That's what video games are all about, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of toxicity out there, but it's like, video games are supposed to bring you together.
Absolutely, 100%.
Make you feel feels and all that fun stuff.
Let's play Mario Party with me and our partners, because then I go ham and I win.
Yo, you're a cheater at Mario Party. I'll tell you that much.
Man.
But yeah, thank you so much, everybody, and we'll talk to everybody real soon.
Yeah, I hope everyone has a happy New Year.
Heck yeah. Going into 22 real strong, baby.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate you. And of course, remember
that we love you. And you should love you too.
Dang right. We love you, baby. Take care. Adios. Sayonara. All that fun stuff.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
We here at Multiplayer would like to give a huge special thank you to Kevin Hopkins, William Euchre, and the rest of our amazing Patreon community. If you'd like to support our podcast and get a shout out at the end of each show, be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/multiplayer. See you next time, players. We love ya!